Hi, Jim. Good to see you.
Hi.
We're
Good to
about
see
to
all of
open.
you.
About to
Thanks.
open.
Thanks for letting me in from the waiting room.
I know it's a rough waiting room.
I was worried I wasn't going to make it.
We're happy to see you. All right, it's 7:03. We at least have 3 of us, so I think we can get started because we have a very busy agenda tonight. All right, happy Tuesday, January 18th, everyone. I would like to officially call this select board meeting to order with a roll call vote.
Corey Evans here.
Jean Healy-Dipple here.
Carrie Thompson here. All right, all are invited to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance if they'd like. I have my handy dandy little flag here for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'm now going to read meeting notes about how we're going to do tonight, like I always do. Tonight's meeting will be conducted on the Zoom platform and also live streamed on Cohasset 143 TV and Cohasset's Facebook page. The public is invited to participate on the Zoom platform, which can be accessed using the link provided at the top of the posted agenda for tonight's meeting. Members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called on by me. Board members can ask questions of any participant, and all votes taken tonight will be officially by roll call vote. Any member of the public who wishes to ask questions or speak, please raise your virtual hand on Zoom, and at my discretion, I can promote you into the meeting. Please also provide your full name and address for the public record. If you are not comfortable speaking on video, you also can provide your name and address in the comments section, and I can try to read those comments too as another option. Please note that comments on Facebook are not being monitored. They're only being monitored on Zoom, and the meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Cohasset 143 TV and our YouTube page. All right. We have a busy and exciting agenda tonight. The first thing on here was the approval of the minutes from 12/14, but Jean, I do believe you made some notes on those today and sent to Tracy. Is that correct? So I don't think they've had a chance to get updated since you sent in your notes, Jean. So I appreciate you sending those notes, but because
Yeah, I sent them last week, and I think a part of it was that I wanted some more detail around certain parts, and I think we'll just have to go back and check the video, which I haven't seen. And so we have to figure out if it's audible too. That's a part of the issue.
Yeah, so let's hold off then on approving those and let's check the audio quality, if that's okay with everyone. All right, next thing on the agenda, the cemetery maintenance perpetual care fund request. Hi, Brian.
Good evening, everybody.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
I'm here. Good to be seen. Thanks.
So give us an update on this.
Sure. So, one of the powers assigned to the select board and one of your many duties is also as cemetery commissioners and overseers of the cemeteries, and also the perpetual care funds, which are used for maintenance and upgrades of the cemeteries. So about 30% of each cemetery plot grave sale goes into the perpetual care funds. And tonight we have a list of improvements that we would like to make at Woodside and Beechwood cemeteries. And I'd like to read through the list and get a vote on approval of the funds to be dispersed from perpetual care to make these improvements.
Perfect.
So first off, the balances of the perpetual care funds, Woodside Cemetery, as of the date of the memo that was given to the board, was $380,163.85. Beechwood Cemetery is $32,695.39.
Okay.
The list of improvements at Woodside, I'll go through first. There are 7 improvements totaling $43,000 estimated that we'd like to do. The first improvement is reset the listing in tilted headstones. It's kind of an ongoing maintenance item. for $1,000. Number two, the next four items are at the Gold Star Mother section of Woodside Cemetery. Number two is replanting the mature plants. This is a visual screening between the T station and Gold Star Mothers. The hedge line was snow damaged out there for $7,000. Number three is repointing the Columbariums and the memorial, which if you go out there is at the end of Gold Star Mothers and the Columbariums where ashes are placed. Number four, repair and place the flagpole lights, which need to be illuminated at nighttime for $5,000. The fifth item is adding stone dust to the walkway. This is very close to wetlands, so the road material out there is a stone dust. So we need to add material that's been worn away. Number six is reconnecting. This is back in the main section of Woodside, reconnecting the building, the only building that's on site, to Hingham Light Power. So the Cohasset Hingham line is right there at the entrance of Woodside Cemetery, and this $10,000 placeholder would be to connect the maintenance building, the only maintenance building that's out there to power. It was connected years ago through through a pole set off the road, which was damaged in many storms. The new power would be underground out to the service at the main entrance. The seventh and final item is to buy and install granite section markers for each of the sections in the cemetery. We have the sections A through J out there. So this is kind of an appropriate kind of wayfinding section marker in around the cemetery. So the total of all those items are for total $43,000. We'd like to take that out of the Perpetual Care Fund. I don't know if you want to vote these as separate cemeteries or
let's see if there are any questions first. We might be able to do it all in one foul swoop. I gotta say, I think cemetery commissioner is almost a cooler title than select board member. But this is important, and thank you, Brian. We do have to work on maintenance and upkeep for these things. Yeah, Corey, I see your hand.
I was just going to recommend that we vote because there's two different funds. We vote per cemetery. We'll do Woodside and then Beechwood, just as a matter of process, if that makes sense to the chair.
Fine.
Sorry, didn't mean to do that.
No, that's totally fine. Any other questions for Brian on any of these updates and upgrades? If not, we can entertain one of the motions out of the two.
I would like to make a motion to approve the $43,000 in funding to or appropriate the $43,000 to go towards the 7 items listed presented to us today for Woodside Cemetery.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote starting with Jack. Jack, you're muted. I assume you said aye.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Haley Dipple, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, that one's done.
Great, thank you. So the second,
go ahead, Brian.
So this, the second appropriation we wanted to make was for Beechwood. There are 3 items on Beechwood totaling $11,500. The 3 items are elevated tree trimming for $5,000, plantings or a visual screening on the north side between the property on Doan Street and that side of the cemetery for $3,000, and repairs to the only structure that's out there, the historical structure that's in the middle of the cemetery, the roof, for $3,500.
Okay. Any questions on any of those items? If not, we can do a motion.
And move to approve the 3 Beechwood items that Mr. Joyce has proposed.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Haley Dipple, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right,
Great,
exciting.
thanks very much.
Thank you, Brian. Those are important. All right.
Thank you.
we now have two hearings to attend to tonight, and we have our town council here, Jim Lampke. I do want to also say Selectwoman Kennedy is running late in another work meeting and will try to make it when she can, but we're not sure if she'll be able to make it for these hearings, but she wanted me to let everyone know that. Our first one is for, let me get the right one up here.
Split Rock is first.
Split Rock is first, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I've got
All right.
the,
Yep,
Right.
Split Rock is first. I will officially read this hearing opening, and then Jim, I'll let you talk on this. The Cohasset Select Board, acting as local license authority, will hold a remote public hearing on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 at 7:05 p.m. virtually via this Zoom webinar to consider the application of Split Rock Social Inc. DBA Split Rock Social, 12 Parking Way, Cohasset, Mass. For a new on-premises wine and malt beverage license. The licensed premises will be seasonal, April through October, oyster bar and beer garden that will be an entirely outside concept located in the rear parking lot of 12 Parking Way in Cohasset. All food, beer, and wine service will take place in a 3,500 square foot outdoor patio that will be almost entirely enclosed aside from one main entrance and 3 emergency exits. All beer and wine will be poured from an enclosed shipping container bar, which also includes 3 restrooms, one of which is ADA compliant. During non-business hours, the container bar, along with all on-site beer and wine, will have the ability to be locked up for storage and safety. The public is invited to offer public input and ask questions regarding this application in writing by emailing Jen Oram at cohassetmass.org in advance of our public hearing, and also can attend right now. Yeah, on the top of our posted agenda. Do we have a motion to officially open this hearing?
so moved.
Do we have a
Second,
second? Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple,
Harry Thompson, aye. All right, this hearing is officially opened for Split Rock Social. Jim,
Yes, thank you and good evening. As it happens, that particular application, the applicant has made a request to postpone the hearing until your meeting on February 1st, if that's a convenient evening for the board. They're still working out some details with the sewer department, and they expect that it will be resolved by February 1st, but it's been a long process, due in part because of the different nature of this type of a proposal. So I spoke to the manager, and I understand that she did send into the town clerk a formal request to continue the hearing.
okay, thank you, Jim. And I believe Carolyn Conway, we just promoted you into panelist if you'd like to say anything. It sounds like this just definitely needs to be a continuation.
I think Carolyn is on the second hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carolyn. I thought you were for this one. Well, okay, you can just sit here and be early.
So Jim,
Does
just to
anyone
do
else-
this, we
sorry,
would just
Jim, does
make a
anyone else
motion to
Yeah, I
continue the
think-
hearing until February 1st.
Yes, if that date is satisfactory to the board.
Okay. Corey, is that a motion you just made?
I'll make the motion then. I move to continue this hearing until the meeting on February 1st.
Do we have a second?
I would second it, but Carrie, if it's okay, I did want to just, briefly say that when they do come on February 1st,
Yep.
it would be helpful to have a site plan and proposed hours of operation and food served, some more details so we can really do the analysis.
Okay. Yeah, and those absolutely are appropriate questions to ask during the hearing too. Thank you, Jean. Okay, so second with that piece of advice. All right. Roll call vote. Jack,
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple,
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right. That hearing for Split Rock is officially continued until our next meeting on February 1st. All right. Yep, we are on time and can continue for our next one for Salty Days. All right, let's open this one. The Cohasset Select Board, acting as local license authority, will hold a remote public hearing on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 at 7:15 p.m. virtually via Zoom webinar to consider application of Salty Days Cohasset LLC, doing business as Salty Days Fish, 85 Main Street, Cohasset, Mass, for a new on-premise wine and malt license. The licensed premises is a total of 2650 square feet. It is one room on the first floor consisting of 48 seats in 1,800 square feet with storage and bathrooms, with kitchen area of 850 square feet and a seasonal outdoor patio of 9 seats. The public is invited to offer public input and ask questions regarding this application in writing by emailing joram@cohassetmass.org in advance of the hearing, and also can attend right now to share their thoughts. All right. Do we have an official motion to open this hearing?
So moved.
All right. Thanks, Corey. Do we have a second? Jack or Jean?
I have to recuse myself.
Oh,
The
okay.
abundance of caution, so.
All right. That's fine. Jack?
Jumping off video.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, it's harder when we only have 4 board members and one has to recuse themselves. All right. We have a motion and a second. A roll call vote. Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, we are officially opened for our hearing. Welcome, everyone. Jim is still here. Carolyn Conway is here. And Doug McGregor, welcome. It's good to see everyone.
Good evening, Carolyn Conway, on behalf of the applicant tonight, and I'm proud and pleased to present 3 of their main cogs that are going into this business. We have Sean McDaniel, who is one of the older owners
Hi,
of
Sean.
Salty Day Fish, who is our proposed manager of record. We
Okay.
also have Mr. Steve Flynn, who is one of the owners of the Salty Day in Hingham. And we also have Mr. Douglas McGregor, who is here as the new person and coming in. And this is one thing that makes me, it makes my job so much easier when I get to present 3 people who already have significant experience in the restaurant industry, especially with this particular concept coming in, coming together and offering Cohasset what they've already proven to be great experience and a great setup. We're going into 85 South Main Street, which is located in the front of the Red Lion Inn. We are, our relationship with the Red Lion Inn today is strictly landlord-tenant. We're coming in as a concept with a fish market, with dine-in restaurant, with malt and, wine available to people. The concept is this, as I'm sure the selectmen know, this is now currently a market where you go in and there's food on the right, deli type of thing, and to the left currently is a gift shop. Our concept is going to fit right in here, in that we already had, this market is built out with the refrigeration, everything for our seafood concept. It has a full, very, very wonderful kitchen, bathrooms, and all what we're going to be doing is taking out the gift shop portion and putting in 47 seats. We're going to put in new bathrooms on the first floor, and we're going to keep, we'll upgrade them. And then we're going to keep the 9 patio seats that are currently outside. So what are we offering the public? Well, we're offering the public a variety of fish, locally sourced fish. And we're also offering some takeout food to go. And for the restaurant as well, we have submitted our menu to you previously, but you'll see that it is seafood that kind of is offered with many different cuisines. We have traditional New England fish, we have some Hawaiian flavor, and we also have Japanese flavor. So people are going to be able to walk in. What we anticipate is that people will be walking into the front door, going up. They would either have the ability to go to the market on the right or to go up to a counter, order their seafood, and be able to go into the dining room where it would be taken to them by wait staff. And then it would be up to the wait staff to take any orders for alcoholic beverages to make sure that everybody was in compliance. So there would be, eyes on the waits, and the wait staff would just be able to concentrate on that because the food would be brought over. Our trash is hand in glove with the hotel. So we're using their dumpster in the back. And we anticipate that during our business that the market will be the focus during the day. That's where we expect most of the clientele to come into. And then towards the dinner hour, we will be switching over to the dine-in concept. Now, the question is, will the market be open during this too? And we're going to see what it bears, but we think so. I mean, we would love it if somebody was sitting down and they had a wonderful haddock or something and they said, please, can you wrap me up some to go? So we're going to see what happens there. And we're very, very much looking forward to the concept. As you can see from the application, we will be spending some significant funds to renovate and give this our new restaurant type of feel. And we know that our track record comes in before us, and we're looking forward to become a real integral part of the Village Business District. So we're happy to answer any questions. I know that we've submitted a floor plan, and we have also submitted a menu. And I will say for the record, because I know that you need to satisfy this, that Mr. McDaniel is a citizen of the United States. He's also a resident of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and he is familiar with the rules and regulations of not only this Board of Selectmen, but the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission as well. And you will see that Mr. McDaniel from the application has both corporate experience, so he's been able to be a big one, but he's been this is one of his concepts, this salty day concept, and he's looking forward to bringing it to Cohasset.
Thank you, Carolyn. You get an A for energy with that.
Thank you.
And I think all of us here are familiar with this property and it's currently anchor and sale, which we are all sad to see them leave, but
Yes.
also excited to hear about this new opportunity. So really, I would love to hear from you, Doug and team. It's nice to see you all together. What would the timeline be, just in terms of what your goals are for if things go well tonight? What would opening timeline be? What are some of your goals for getting open in the next several months?
Yep, I'll lead off. Doug McGregor, not coincidentally, a Cohasset resident, 7 Border Street, around the corner.
Right.
In love with their concept and became a partner in that concept and was excited to bring it to my hometown. Megan, who's become a friend, both through business and through this transaction. She actually, I don't know if it came in time. She did write a letter of support to you, Carrie.
She did
great.
Send an email to the board.
Which was a nice gesture. We've worked through where she's going. She does have plans to stay in town, so we're really excited about that, and just with a different program. She would be departing at the end of this month. I think February 9th is when our lease starts. She's there till February 8th with some flexibility allowed as needed. I saw her today, and that's the plan she's on. Our build out and what we need to do, including training of new employees over in Hingham, would allow us to be open we're using spring, early summer. So basically March, April, and hopefully our goal is to be open in May. The space does not require a lot of physical work, or I should say infrastructure work, in that it's a full commercial kitchen. It was previously used for sit-down dining for various concepts. And mostly what we're doing is cosmetic and equipment, which has some long lead times, but we're ready to order. We're just waiting for a couple things, this night being one of the most important.
Okay. All right. Questions from Corey or Jack? Corey.
Yeah, guys, good to see you. Welcome to town. And as Carrie said, anchor and sale was kind of a gem. So you've got some big shoes to fill. But hoping for the best for you all. Quick question, and thanks to Attorney Lamke thanks for working for Attorney Lamke, and thanks as always, Mr. Lamke, for guiding us through these processes. One thing that was pointed out, Carolyn, you mentioned in your opening comments that the relationship between yourself and the landowners is purely, tenant and leasee, I guess, or building owner. However, I saw there was an area of the site plan that said shared use area. That's not shared with Red Lion. What does shared use area mean exactly?
Yeah, I'm happy to explain. It's an old building and the layout's a little clunky. So they want to have the right, there's going to be some areas in the back of the kitchen where they'll need to have access. So they want to make that clear with us up front. So should they need to use a part of the kitchen on the far side, they would have the right because they have the function space upstairs. So there's going to be some cooperative, again, with the layout of the building, we'd have to have some cooperative efforts to stay out of each other's way in operating.
Okay, with that understanding, Mr. Lampke, what would you advise us with that information?
The liquor license is going to include the area that you just described. Does the Red Lion Inn on their liquor license have any part of that area that you just described? Because only one license can be assigned to an area.
Nope. Okay, I understand the question. No, our premises and their liquor license does not cover anything that we're doing, and our license will not cover any space that they're doing. Cut and dry. We're on the lower level, they're on the upper level, and that's that.
Great. Okay.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anchor and Sale had just a beer and wine license, right?
Yes, we also are going for beer and wine. However, theirs was, is it called on premises?
Yep.
Package store, and
Yep.
the difference being that we will serve in a supervised
Yeah, exactly.
capacity.
Yeah, you could buy and take it home with them. Yep. So this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one is under section 12 of chapter
Right.
138 and the other is under section 15. So
Totally. No, I think we understand the concept. I just was curious in terms of what your ideal hours would be for throughout the week, but Jack, I'll go to you first because you haven't asked a question yet.
Well, aside from the fact I haven't had dinner and I'm thinking about your
I know.
food, can't wait for you to open. On your takeout food, will there be people getting like sandwiches or fish sticks or whatever to go?
I'm going to defer to, I stay in my lane, so I'll defer to our general manager and manager of
Okay.
record for you.
Yes, yeah, there'll be food to go as well.
Jack's
Look.
placing an order right now.
Yeah,
It might not, I mean, never mind. I'll leave that one. Right alone. My concern is that for the trash around the village, it's become a bit of a problem. And I'm getting, if there's one complaint I get from more citizens, it's, the downtown area needs to be tidied up or whatever. So will you take an active role in making sure that you don't contribute to that?
yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yes, we will.
Yeah, okay. And sometimes, you really have to go out and pick it up, even if it's not your trash, but
I agree. We do it all the time in Hingham. Stuff gets
Yeah,
blown
so,
around in the wind. So it's like, that's a reflection of our business. So we want to make sure that the whole area is clean.
I
absolutely.
appreciate
Yeah.
that in advance. Thank you.
No, it's a good question. And in terms of kind of takeout parking, I know with Anchor and Sale, they did a big takeout business too. And a lot of cars would kind of just pull up to the side and those spaces were available for takeout. As we know, parking in the entire village is a problem that we're trying to work on. Do you all feel like this space is appropriate? I know Hingham doesn't always have a lot of parking either, but do you think it'll be appropriate without causing too much traffic in that area right in front of you?
We do. We know there's a challenge. Again, I live around the corner. Right? I know
Yep.
the challenges. I'm involved as an investor in about 14 restaurants nationwide, a few here, including Seabird Coffee and Locales Taco.
Mhm.
We wouldn't be moving forward with this if we didn't think it was a viable, appropriate use of the space, because that's a real killer. When you don't have appropriate access, people just don't come. So I've gone to know Megan and talking about the patterns of traffic. We know it's a challenge and we'll have to manage it. And of note, our takeout is not running in for a bottle of soda or whatnot. I think we will have a reduced impact in that category for that quick turnover of the parking, where people are coming to pick up a full meal, sushi, a prepared fish meal. So it will be a little lower impact from that perspective.
Corey,
That you're also making me hungry, but
I know
I'll look at it.
we're all
Um,
excited for sushi and fish.
The one thing I do want to clarify is that there are the outdoor spaces. I do know we have, Red Lion, the whole thing, it's a mixed village and residential community. And I wanted to confirm with Attorney Lamke that there's nothing, that the license that we'd be distributing today would cover their outdoor space as well, or is there something we have to special do about that? And then the second part of the question would be for you all, which is what are the hours of internal operation and external operation that you're imagining?
Yep, that was my next question about the hours.
I believe the license does cover the outside patio area. And perhaps Attorney Conway could just confirm when that will be used, and that it does cover the outside patio area, which is seasonal use.
Right. Well, that's why I included it in the official description of the license, that license would extend there. And traditionally, a seasonal patio is between April 1st and October 1st. And this board always has the discretion to increase that. Given, especially during the pandemic, it was something else. But right now, that's what we're anticipating. We would like to have right now, a midnight closing just in case, to see how this goes. We do anticipate that most nights it would probably be a lot earlier than that. And especially in this day and age with staffing problems, it's hard to put in 2 shifts, but we'd like to be able to, especially if there was a private party or anything, to have that midnight closing. So.
Okay, yeah, the outdoor dining with COVID.
Well, the outdoor dining, I would say should be earlier.
No.
We would use take the board's advice on that. I
Right.
don't think that because of, voices can carry and that type of thing, that we would certainly, as I said, take the board's advice as to an earlier closing hour for the patio.
Okay, no, I will say just based on COVID protocol too, people have really loved outdoor dining as an option, even with kind of an extended season as
Yeah.
much as possible. So just in town and in the village in general, that has been popular. Corey, is your hand still up?
Sorry, if I
Yeah.
could just.
Go ahead, Doug, yeah.
I was just elaborate. We would be delighted if the town thought it was logical to have that year round. We have learned, particularly from Locales Taco, that due to health concerns, incredible embracing of outdoor dining when you never would have thought otherwise.
Right.
People sit out with a jacket. I saw it at Square the other day, So if it sees fit, we will behave ourselves. We purposely are only doing beer and wine. We don't have a bar. We're a quiet place, but we do want to serve people equally and give equal access to people who don't want to dine inside. But that's up to you guys.
Yeah, no, I do think the outdoor dining concept, our opinions have changed on it based on the past couple of years. Corey.
I was just going to suggest to the board that, and ask Mr. Lamke, I think we did put limitations on outdoor liquor service for Red Lion. It would seem a little bit incongruent if we had different hours of operation for an outdoor space, which is even closer to residents. So I would probably like to see the same kind of restrictions, that at least we're treating the same property the same way. I think BIA closes at 11 for outdoors. 11 kind of rings a bell. But if we could look that up, I think that would just be a good way to handle this, if that makes sense to everybody else.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have them be the same hours. Otherwise, as you say, it's going to be an inconsistency that's going to stand out. And this area is closer to the residences. So I think that the key is, what are the hours of the Red Lion Inn, the outside area there?
I can look it up. Let me see if
11 kind of sticks in my head too, Corey, but I'm not sure. And by the way, if there's any member of the public who would like to speak or give a comment, please raise your hand or post a comment in the messages. You're not obligated to. I know several of you in the audience right now sent messages to the board that we've read and thought about, but any member of the public is welcome to chime on in if they'd like as well.
As I've suggested, when the board, if the board is going to approve the license, and it certainly sounds like a very attractive concept, you should specify the hours as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Jim. Jim, can you find what the Red Lion hours are?
Did you ask me that, or?
I'm looking right now.
Find
Based
it.
on my most recent, it says porch dining, alcoholic beverage services permitted from the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's the version I have as of last January.
Yeah, no, I can't remember if it was 10 or 11 or what we did for outdoor. Yes, Doug.
Carrie, I took the liberty of texting our landlord, Ted Lubitz.
Very efficient. Thank you.
And
Yes.
he's a very responsive landlord. He's texted back that Corey is absolutely correct, 10 p.m. And we follow your logic on that.
Okay.
That would make sense to us for the outdoor
Okay.
dining.
Thank
All right,
you,
then.
Ted.
Thanks. Then, I mean, I would make a motion to approve the application of Salty Days Cohasset, DBA Salty Days Fish at 85 South Main Street for a new annual on-premise wine and malt beverage alcohol license and the appointment of Sean McDaniel as manager with the hours, so with the indoor hours of operation between 8 a.m. and midnight and the outdoor operation hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. Does that pass muster, Mr. Lanky?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
No
Okay.
options.
Any further discussion? I do see one hand up, so I'm gonna allow that to be part of this discussion, but the motion and second has been made. Let's see, hold on. Rena Karp is in the audience, and Rena, would you like to talk? You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to be.
Yes, hi, Rena Karp, 91 South Main Street, directly next door to the new business. We're really disappointed that there's going to be more alcohol being served at the Red Lion Inn property. There's already 5 locations on the property now that serve, and we have to put up with a lot of inconveniences because of that. With these late nights, we have no buffer zone next to our home, and there are going to be people outside all the time. We have a terrible problem with delivery trucks now. They're constantly in front of our house. We cannot see when we want to leave the driveway. The people that run into Anchor and Sales use it as their loading zone and their parking for their business. We're constantly picking up trash. They leave piles of their recyclables right next door. We don't think it's fair when they have hundreds of people over here every weekend. Now we're going to have to put up with them all week right next to our house till 11 at night when they're going to be coming out and getting in and out of their cars. And the truck traffic is terrible. I've sent pictures, I've sent emails, I've had no response. Nothing has changed. It's dangerous. The picture I sent to the selectmen last week showed a Falvey linen truck going the wrong way in front of our driveway, backed up to another huge truck that was delivering. It's not fair to us as the residents here.
Thank you for sharing that, Rena. I know we did see the pictures you sent, and I will say, I think it isn't necessarily fair to hold these new applicants responsible for some of these trucks that have nothing to do with them too. But I do think the truck problem especially is something we can talk about and try to figure out, because that does seem like a huge inconvenience for you.
It's been happening for 2 years and the town has done nothing about it. Another problem we have is the odor. Is there going to be some kind of ventilation equipment that we're not going to be smelling fish all the time in our house? Right now, we can smell the kitchen from the Red Lion. So, this is going to be a fish store. And they used to leave a lot of trash right in the back. We've had problems with seagulls out there. The recycling just gets piled up right on the main street. So I don't want to see wine bottles and beer bottles out there. I've had to sweep up the glass from that recycling. I don't see how they're ever going to stop the people from parking in front of our house. They use it as the cell phone lot anyway. So we need some way to keep people from blocking our driveway. We can't get out when they're parked there.
Okay, thank you, Rena. We can let Doug address maybe some of these points that you brought up. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Rena.
Sorry, I thought someone else speaking, or would you like?
Nope, go ahead.
No, all valid concerns as someone who lives adjacent to the business district. I can say the proof is it will be in the action. We run a really great business, which we can point to over in Hingham with no smells, no neighborly complaints, no litter. We run a very, the aesthetic and the atmosphere is very important, very professional for us. We want people to trust us with this type of food. So we will be running a business. I can't comment on who's been in the past or who are, or any other behaviors of the past, but we will be compliant with all rule and law. We will work with the neighbors. I did reach out. I saw the email that came in to you guys from Ms. Karp. I did reply last week and asked if they wanted to have a dialogue and start on the right foot so we can talk about concerns, and any reasonable concern. We are going to work with the neighbors like we do any location I'm affiliated with, and that these guys have been for years. Neighborhood relations are critical. And if there's enforcement issues, we'll be the first to be on the same bandwagon of trying to help enforce the laws as they stand. So we will we will make a proactive effort to be a good neighbor.
Thank you, Doug. Jack.
Yeah, I think this is not just the Carps issue. And by the way, it's difficult, and I understand the problems. But as long as we have Jim Lampke here, one recourse would be that if they don't handle this properly, can we, upon renewal time, not renew their licenses, or what are we running into on that?
Well, once a license is issued, as we know, it's very hard to not renew it unless you have good cause not to renew it. And if there's noise in the neighborhood, people have to work together. It's a commercial business district, but it's also a residential district. And it would be hard to not renew the license if there were problems of that nature, unless they were significant. If they were significant and violated any of the Cohasset licensing rules and regulations or any state laws, then you might have a basis to take some administrative action. I think it may behoove everyone, as Mr. McGregor said, to have some type of a dialogue and include the police chief and the fire chief, because public safety is a concern. If there was an entertainment license involved, while those are very privileged types of conduct that can be done with entertainment license, if there was excessive noise as a result of the entertainment license, then you could take some steps. But from what's being described here, it sounds like it's more the delivery component. You could put some conditions on the operation in terms of the delivery hours, when there would be deliveries made, require the licensee to confer with any of the suppliers to be sure that they understand where they can park, where they can drive, and so forth. And perhaps the licensee would be willing to offer, before it's required, that staff would periodically go out and remove any litter that's in the area that appears to have come from the establishment, although it's hard to tell where it came from. But process of elimination or logic, if there's a large entertainment restaurant facility there, that there's likely that any litter that would be associated with that establishment may have come from the patron. So a lot of it is just having better management to monitor people leaving, being sure they don't leave with glass or bottle or cups or things of that nature. And it sounds like they are representing that they take a very active role in that. Perhaps they would like to address how they see addressing some of these concerns.
Yeah, I think the
Go ahead, Jack.
from their answer earlier, they know that it doesn't matter if it's their trash or not, they're getting blamed. So you might as well go out and clean it up. But what I'm hearing you're saying is once they get the license, it's pretty, and I'm aware of that, which is why I asked the question.
Right.
Is there a a way in which we can kind of put the type of condition which will let them know that they are running that risk?
Well, perhaps Mr. McGregor wants to, he had his
Doug.
hand up, but wait to
Yeah.
see what he has to say.
Yeah,
let me
well,
just-
I
go ahead,
don't have a
Doug.
law degree, so I'm just gonna, we want to be subject to every law and ordinance that exists and that's enforced by impartial, that can be, and we know we're going to be watched carefully. We're aware that there's conflict between the neighbors and the Red Lion and previous operations. We know we are on a spotlight from day one. And we would want, our inclination would be to rely on the existing laws and ordinances that we know we have to, toe the line. To the point of being a good neighbor, as I mentioned before, we purposely are only doing beer and wine, not liquor. We're not putting a bar in. Those were options in the past. We said, no, I don't think that's a good fit for this location. So again, we're not the boogeyman. We are what we say we are, as proven over in Hingham. We are a family friendly beer and wine restaurant, no bar. Just it's a proper place for the village.
And I will say too,
May I just interject for something? And I know Councilor Lamsky knows this, is under Chapter 138, we are subject to follow all the law. I mean, the statutory, the regulations, everything, and we're held to that standard. What we're willing to do here is to open up a dialogue and talk to people, maybe through a business association or something that we can do with the village
Right.
business, and to make sure that we get a coordinated effort rather than just, doing it so that we can maybe do more of a better global problem solving. And we're more than happy to spearhead that and to have a meeting, especially with, building department, health department, and the police, and see what really needs to be done, and then become part of the solution.
no, Carolyn, I think that's really well said. And I do want to make sure all the businesses in the village are being treated equally. And I know that some of the complaints that neighbors have are from other businesses, or maybe trucks from the Red Lion events or other things. So I do think this dialogue is important. And maybe we can involve the Chamber of Commerce and the village district, and especially Red Lion and everyone in that area, to see how we can actually maybe find some compromise and make this better. But I also don't want certain complaints being held against these applicants when they've never even had any of these problems themselves, right? Like, I don't want to be holding them to an unfair standard that other places haven't been held to either.
So, well, as I said, we're here, we're willing to talk to and be interactive and talk to everybody about what can make the situation better.
Jim.
One thing that I've seen that sometimes helps in a situation like this is the business operation will give to the residents in the area a listing of the managers and their cell phone numbers, so that if they're seeing that there is a problem with truck delivery, or if there are people that are being noisy coming from the place or on the grounds that are, particularly unreasonably noisy, that the residents could call that to the attention of the manager on duty, so that hopefully that person can intercede and try to make things the right way.
More
Yeah.
than happy to do that. More than happy to do that. That consider that a done deal.
Okay. Any other comments? I know we have a motion and a second on the table, and these are all really important things to discuss. Jack and Corey, do you feel ready to move along with the vote?
Yeah, I understand it's a very difficult issue, and I think we're hearing some positive reactions from the applicant. I also am very much aware of what a good facility they run in Hingham.
Mhm.
And it's not to their advantage in a small town of Cohasset to have controversy. As long, and they're sensitive. So, I think the town wishes them well, but please, you remember, and the other thing we should remember is they don't like to come to these hearings.
All right, well said, Jack. All right. We have the motion and the second, and I'm comfortable moving forward with a roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Congrats, Doug
Thank
and
you
Carolyn
so
and team.
much.
We're very
much. Thank
excited.
you.
I can't wait for opening day.
Neither can we. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks
All
for
right,
listening.
Counselor
Thank you.
Limke, it's nice to see you again. It's been a long,
Likewise.
a long time.
Yeah, likewise.
A few gray hairs.
Aw,
Thank you all very, very much. We appreciate it.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
All right, and thank you, Jim.
Sure.
All right,
Thank you all. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know now or give me a call or whatever. But if there's nothing else, I will say goodnight. I hope that the memo was helpful.
it was helpful, Jim. No, we appreciate you sending that. I definitely looked at it. I'm sure everyone did. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Good night. Be safe.
Thank you. All right, I want to do an official apology to our county sheriff for making him wait. Sheriff.
No worries at
McDermott,
all. No worries at all.
You know
No
how
worries at
these
all.
agendas are with our hearings. I saw you waiting in the wings, so thank you for waiting.
I'm always fascinated. This brings me back, 25 years to my days on the Quincy City Council.
There you
you
go.
know, and
See, you know you miss it. You miss it.
The best agendas, I know that we set the times and everything, but you never,
Yep.
you always go running wild anyway, so that's
Yep.
fine.
For those who have not
So-
had the pleasure of meeting our county sheriff, Patrick McDermott, this is him. Welcome. He's here to give us an update on what's going on in the Norfolk County Sheriff's Department. So thank you for coming, Sheriff. It's good to have you.
Point of order, Madam
Excellent.
Chair.
Oh,
Do we
sorry,
have to
Corey.
close the
Oh,
hearing?
I would do have to close the hearing. Oh, I got so
Time out.
distracted.
I
Thank you,
don't know if with liquor
Thank you,
license. we have to
Corey.
close the hearing.
Thank you, Corey. We do need to officially close the
Okay.
hearing.
Thank you.
I move that we close the liquor license hearing.
We have a
Second,
second. All right. Roll call vote.
Jack
Yeah.
Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Corey. I always forget to close those hearings. And Jean's back. All right. Okay, now we're really ready for you, Sheriff. So
Fantastic. All good. So just to let everybody know, full disclosure, I'm coming to you live from my mobile office tonight. I'm over at Logan Airport doing my duties as an Uber parent. My daughter just flew in from Florida. So just
aw,
to let you know, I am parked in a location that's safe. I'm not driving, but I am calling you from the mobile office. But happy to be here tonight, and I will be brief only because I know you have an extensive agenda tonight. And when I first became sheriff a little over a year ago, I wanted to make sure it was an obligation for me to come before at least once a year the various select boards throughout the county, all 28 towns, just to give a quick update, a report, things that are going on at the sheriff's office. And to be able to speak to the town directly about some of the things that we do directly with the town to help on public safety issues. But just as a background for me, I am a resident of Quincy, former city councilor. I represented Cohasset for 18 years as the Register of Probate for Norfolk County. And today, in fact, I am celebrating my 21 years ago. I was sworn in as a member of the bar of Massachusetts. So 21 years as an attorney today. So I'm very proud of that accomplishment. But like I said, a year in the sheriff's office, the role of the sheriff is care and custody of justice involved individuals who are serving generally up to 2.5 years in the House of Correction over in Dedham. However, there are 3 different types of judicial involved individuals that we do take care of. One is the sentenced population, those that have actually gone through the court system, have been sentenced to come to our facility for rehabilitation and before reentry into the community. We
That's
also
where
hope-
we met.
There it is. We have pre-trial detainees who are actually waiting to be put into the criminal justice system to be tried. And our third population is federal U.S. Marshal detainees who are waiting a trial in the federal court system. So as of today, we had 316 men who are housed in our facility. And I mention men only because we do not currently have a female population housed in Norfolk County. We do have, I believe at last count, 26 females who are currently being housed at the Suffolk County House of Correction with the assistance of my good colleague, Sheriff Tompkins. We are aggressively pursuing an opportunity to bring our women back into Norfolk County. I think it's only a fairness issue certainly for their families in terms of visitation and things like that, especially in some of the access to the programming that I think we could offer would help that. So we're working diligently with that to hopefully have a plan in place this year. But like I said, my mission statement, my vision of being sheriff was based upon prevention, intervention, education.
Oh, you muted yourself. There we go.
Prevention and
Sheriff, you're muted again. We could.
but
There you go.
The education and hope portion of our vision statement is mostly dealing with the folks that we deal with in the facility. We're very proud of some of the programming that we do offer. My focus is reentry on day one when an individual comes into our services. We make sure that we know the individual that's coming into the facility, what their needs might be. Certainly, we focus on rehabilitation. A lot of our judicially involved individuals are dealing with substance abuse issues, addiction. So we focus a lot on that. We have a lot of programming, educational programming in the facility to focus on education in terms of getting a GED or advanced certificates in certain programs. The bottom line is my obligation to you as a community is to make sure when an individual comes into my care and custody that I return that individual back to the town of Cohasset in a better position than I received him or her. And I hope to be able to have some metrics to show some of the things, the results of the programming that we do on a day-to-day basis. A big part of what we've focused on the facility this year has been, as many towns, we've all been in it, is the COVID-19 pandemic. We've made it a very high priority to make sure that we have a plan in place. Our plan has been implemented a couple of times because of outbreaks in the facility. But fortunately, we've made a focus on vaccination, focus on hygiene, focus on clean facilities. And we've only had to lock down and communication. That's the big thing too, is communicating with the individuals to let them know about safety relative to the pandemic. And fortunately, we have a very high vaccination rate among staff as well as the inmate population. And it's going up further. We've had panels come into the facility to talk to the various housing units about the importance of protecting themselves against COVID-19. And we've got a lot of cooperation from the men that are in our facility. So that's taken up a lot of our time, and rightfully so. We're hopefully at the end of the pandemic in another couple of months with this last variant, unless another variant comes forward. But we're in a better position today than we were a year ago. Most of the other things I really like to talk about, I'll be very brief, is just some of the things that we do outside of the facility, some of our external efforts. Certainly working with our senior population. I have a great working relationship with our councils on aging in all the communities to help seniors, educate them on local issues in terms of scams that are coming out. We do a program called the Are You OK program for seniors who can sign up for free program. We check in with seniors every day to make sure that they're doing okay. In the event that we don't get a contact with them on a day-to-day basis, we initiate first responder calls, and we're able to save lives by doing so. We also have an intergenerational program that we're hoping to relaunch this year with our teen population. It's called the YES program. It's Youth Empowering Seniors, and we want to bring seniors together with youth in an intergenerational approach to working with some simple things like how to use your cell phone, how to set up a Facebook account, and if they really want to get daring, how to do a TikTok video. Well, who knows? But the other thing, we talk about our youth population. We do want to focus on some of our at-risk population, and our kids are vulnerable, whether they're on the right track or not. The kids are a vulnerable population. We want to focus on that. That's why we've invested in our youth leadership camp. It's a well-known camp. I inherited it. We're celebrating our 20th year in Braintree this year. We're expanding it down to Franklin. Thousands and thousands of kids and families have participated in that program to rave reviews. We're hoping to open the camp up to 100% capacity this summer. And I hope that some residents at Cohasset take advantage of that. We'll keep you posted on that. And people can certainly come to our website at norfolksheriff.com for more information on that. We also, and I want to give a shout out and a thanks to Cohasset, because we also reconstituted our youth substance abuse task force. And we have a lot of participation with the Safe Harbor Coalition from Cohasset. We're very happy to have their partnership in that effort to once again focus on that at-risk population when it comes to opioid and substance abuse issues. So that's a predominant issue for me, and we want to focus on that. And we do have our school resource officers that work with our school system to go out and do programming, do demonstrations. We have our safe driver program, our distracted driver program. We have numerous programs for seniors and youth that are certainly delineated on our website, and certainly you and your residents can certainly go on norfolksheriff.com for more information on that. But really, at the end of the day, I campaigned 2 years ago to run as a public safety official. I have a great working relationship with your chief of police, your fire chief, to make sure that public safety is of paramount importance. Certainly, I know it's in every town, and certainly as a countywide official, I want to send that message loud and clear that whatever resources we have at the sheriff's office are available to the town of Cohasset. Whether it's our public safety stuff or our programs that are offered, we want to make sure that we're a resource available to the town. And certainly, and I'm not sure, I haven't checked the recent reports, but we also, part of what we do with our pre-release inmates, those folks that are getting ready to go back into the community, a lot of them are skilled in work. And we do have workforces that go out and help clean up cemeteries. We've beautified parks. And some of our skilled workforce, we do have a carpenter, we do have a plumber, electrician that actually help out do some renovations. I know we renovated Holbrook Town Hall a couple of years ago. So we want to make sure that those services are offered to you. If there's any project in the town of Cohasset that you feel we might be able to participate in, you can certainly shoot us an email for anything, for that or anything, is info@norfolksheriffma.org. And you can certainly avail yourselves of those programs. So that's a quick hit about what we're up to. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and certainly appreciate the time that you've allotted me tonight.
Thank you, Sheriff. That's a great update. And also special shout out to our Safe Harbor crew and youth ambassadors who are also fantastic. This is, your job is not easy, Sheriff, and these issues are so important. It's an issue near and dear to my heart. I actually teach frequently over at MCI Concord.
Great.
I teach college classes there. So seeing how much the pandemic has negatively impacted everyone involved is really heartbreaking. And it's good to hear that you're still trying to do this programming and get things a little bit more back to normal, because it's been brutal for those who are incarcerated. So I would love to chat with you more about this offline, Sheriff, some other programming.
Love to do it. Carrie,
Yeah.
Thank you. And if I could, I forgot to give a quick shout out to another Cohasset resident, Eric Hensey, Cohasset resident. He's an Eagle Scout. He's earning his Eagle Scout badge. We honored him at Gillette Stadium this past fall as a Norfolk County hero. So Eric Hensey from Cohasset, Eagle Scout. Quick shout out to him as well.
That's
great.
Fantastic.
Cohasset produces great people.
That is true. That is true. This is a great update. Any other comments from the board or questions? Jean?
Well, thank you, Sheriff, for the update. And I want to reiterate the plug for the youth academies. My nephew went through it last summer. He lived in Braintree, loved it, and I didn't even realize it existed. And so for others that are listening, we're part of Norfolk County and we can apply to join. It's a really well-run program out of the sheriff's office. And Sheriff, I also just wanted to put in a plug for the federal agency that I work for has recently put out a guide for those who are re-entering society after coming out of the criminal justice system. And you can order it in bulk. It focuses on financial management. It's called Focus on Reentry Criminal Justice Guide, and correctional facilities across America can order them. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because having represented prisoners and being a criminal prosecutor in Roxbury, I realized that there's just so many challenges on all sides. So I wanted to let you know that that resource was out there for you and those who you're assisting as well through that process.
I love that, and I'd love to. I definitely would buy a copy of that and get it for us. I hired a director of reentry services. It's all free, even better. Free for me. I love it.
Yeah.
Which agency is that?
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Okay, great. I know my assistant Dan Manning is on here taking
I
notes,
see
so
Dan on
we'll definitely take advantage of that. We hired a director of reentry services who has done a fantastic job over the last 6 months identifying numerous opportunities for our justice involved individuals to re-enter the community, and he's identified, I think, over 70 FOIA friendly employers who are willing to take a shot at some of our guys that we certify as being ready to get back into the workforce. So that would be a great help as well. So I appreciate that.
No, I
And
really,
anybody that anybody
ahead.
that I also want to shout out to, I always forget this, and it's so vitally important. We have a lot of turnover in our staff, and anybody that is looking for a career in corrections, numerous things. We have our security forces, you know, our corrections officers, our deputy sheriffs, but there's numerous other opportunities working as a caseworker, working in our reentry services, working as an educator. Check out some of our jobs. If anybody's looking to apply, even just a general application for the sheriff's office, you can go on our website, norfolksheriff.com, go to our job site, file an application. We love talented individuals that are coming to work, who want to give a little bit back, and the pay scale is pretty good too. So the benefits there. And anybody that might be interested, college students that are interested in internships, if you're a criminal justice major, if you know people in the community that are looking for an internship, we welcome those students to come in, either in the facility to work with us directly, or even in our youth services programs. So there's a lot of opportunities at the sheriff's office for career,
Great.
as well as voluntary opportunities as
Yeah,
well.
if you or Dan could get us some flyers or more information about that, I'm sure we could get that passed out and distributed to various people. And I do think our town could probably be doing more for especially helping people who are trying to re-enter, right? And I think that, again, not for this meeting, but I do think there are some bigger discussions we can have about how the town of Cohasset could be more supportive in these endeavors. So thank you for putting that in our minds and planting the seed, Sheriff. I think it's really important.
It's great to have a partnership with the town. So I greatly appreciate being here tonight.
Wonderful. All right. Any final questions? All right, go do your Logan pickup. Go get your daughter. Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, Dan,
Thank you.
for being here. We can be in touch about getting more information.
Looking forward to warmer temperatures hanging out at the harbor. So I'll be there.
Amen to that. All right.
Have a good night.
All right. Moving on to our community health update. Let's see, we're getting people in here. Pam, I see you coming in. Hi, Pam.
Good evening, Carrie. I think I might be the only one for
Are
the
you're our Lone Ranger. Oh, Glenn's here. I see Glenn.
Oh, okay.
Pam, how are you?
Doing
Every
okay.
week that I see you, it's like, okay, we made it through another week. Hi, Glenn.
Right.
All right. So again, we said we'd be doing this just based on the spike in the recent months that we've been seeing. I know that rumor is that Massachusetts maybe has started to plateau, but we do have some exciting news. I know with some more vaccine clinics, especially our one for kids, which Pam is thanks to your magic. You're amazing. But give us an update, Pam. How are things going on your end? Tell us a little bit more about.
Sure. Can I just share my screen for a minute? Just so it's good, like dates and times on it and stuff.
Do you not have permission?
Let me see. I think I do, actually.
You should have permission.
There, can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. So yeah, just to start off, I think last time I showed you this chart, you know, where you can compare December, January of 2021. This is 2022. So we're way ahead of schedule because January here at 199, that's only half the month. That's only through January 17th. So there is a huge spike from the Omicron variant. That's true. It's, you know, as we established last time I talked to you guys, it obviously is much more contagious. And the good news is that the vaccines really have knocked down the severity of the disease. So if you're boosted, you tend to have mild disease, you know, and if you've been vaccinated but not boosted, it could be moderate. And, you know, if you haven't been vaccinated at all, it can be severe. So to that end, we have set up some more vaccination clinics. And people asked, and I got to really give credit to Mary Goodwin. She really, reached out and set this up. This is a clinic for children ages 5 to 11. It's going to be this Saturday at the Dare Hill School from 1 to 3 o'clock. On our website, you can sign up and register for this clinic. And we are anticipating in 3 weeks to be able to do a second dose. So this will be dose 1 primarily, and then hopefully dose 2 in 3 weeks. We've done a lot of booster clinics for adults at Wilcott Commons. They've all been in the afternoon from 1 to 4. So I think we've exhausted that whole cohort that might be able to come to that. So we're going to see if we could do one more evening one. If we don't get many people signed up, this could be the last one, but we're hoping to, catch people that work, a normal 9 to 5 job, haven't been able to come to any daytime ones. So we're doing Wednesday, the 26th from 4 to 7 o'clock p.m. And again, both clinics have registration links on our Town Quasset website.
Great.
And then this announcement came out for the federal government is giving away free test kits to anybody who wants them. Now, I don't know if website's going to be crashing tomorrow, but it does open tomorrow.
It works today, actually. Spoiler alert, it works today. I already filled mine out and it worked flawlessly.
All right, that's good to know. COVIDtest.gov. So this is a federal government program, and everybody in the United States is eligible to receive for a free at-home COVID-19 tests. So I think this is probably 2 boxes, 4 tests. In the state of Massachusetts, there's also a program that's going to be going on soon for families with kids in schools. So DESE's going to be announcing their new program tomorrow, and they're going to get away from some of the contact tracing, and they're going to replace it with, again, at-home test kits. And those are going to be shipped directly to schools. So once that program starts, you'll be able to apply through your school, and families can get 2 test kits like every 2 weeks. So that's kind of more to come, but that's going to be rolled out. We on the local health level will hear more about it tomorrow. They're going to give us a presentation around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I think, check the school newsletter, more information to come, but test kits, I guess, are the way everybody's pivoting to for now. And that's it for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions for Pam? Thank you so much, Pam. I know that several other board members really wanted to make this kids clinic happen, and we didn't know if it was going to be possible, and just it's amazing that we were able to pull that off. And I know so many parents, especially of this younger age group, really appreciate it. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, it always makes us feel good too to do the vaccinations. Like we're really actually doing a quantitative, measurable, good
right
to the public. So that's good.
Well, and we might need to restart the booster clinics in 6 months again. We'll see.
I know.
Right?
I think
They
so
might-
too.
They might not be ending. So
I think you're right.
All right. I saw Corey's hand first and then Jean.
I just want to reiterate what Chair Thompson just said, Pam, and to Mary Goodwin. Thanks for getting this together for the kids. Again, this is our largest, by I guess percentages, whatever math, of unvaccinated individuals, and we want to keep the schools healthy. And this was it was such a nightmare for parents because we're saving all this stress with pediatricians, and we're opening up resources that don't have to be spent here. So thank you for getting this done. And just being responsive to the community. We're lucky to have you all. That's all I got.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Jean.
Yeah, I literally just wanted to say the same. I know that Corey and I have been, sort of on our town employees to get this going. And so I appreciate that, feels like you've been very responsive, along with Nurse Goodwin. And so we really appreciate that. I did have one quick question, and this is a very stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So the clinic is for children 5 to 11. Does that mean children who are 12 plus fall in the adult clinic range?
Well, they don't fall in the adult clinic range. So the reason why our clinics are 18 plus is because we have the Moderna vaccine, and the kids are only eligible for Pfizer.
Okay.
So this is going to be a Pfizer clinic. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a nurse, so I'm not sure if the dosage is
Right.
different for the 5 to 11 compared to the 12 to 16 group. I have a feeling they have a different dosage.
That is a
So
good
that's why
question.
it's 5 to 11.
If
I
Yeah,
parents
believe.
I
start
wasn't
asking, yeah, no, Gene, it's a
sure
good
if there was
question.
a gap. In case someone asked, I just wasn't sure what the answer was. And my daughter, who's 12, she got vaccinated with the regular adult vaccine. So that's why I wasn't sure if adult.
Okay,
was
so she
12
must
plus.
have got the adult Pfizer. So this is a child Pfizer.
Yeah, okay.
If parents do want to bring kids above 12 though, that maybe we just say no, or we can try to figure that out. I'm not sure if that's a question we're going to be getting, but it's important to ask, Gene. So
Yeah, I mean, we can double check with the people that will actually be putting it on.
okay,
And again, I'm not a nurse, so I'll find out clinically, if there are limitations.
okay,
And then so we have the website where you can sign up, and so we can put any additional notes on there as well.
perfect. Yeah, no, and all of us need to share this all over to everyone too. Hopefully we can get good turnout.
Yep, I'll write that down.
All right, Glenn, do you have anything to add?
No, only I think that Mary Goodwin and Pam do a great job lining all these opportunities up. But I think we have to do a shout out here to the town facilities department and school department. Facilities sets these clinics up and down, and they've got the routine, and they staff it as necessary. And the schools let us use their, albeit a town building, but their facilities, they move other things around in the building, they reassign their custodians, and so it's a real cooperative effort of a lot of departments, and that's a good thing.
Well said, Glenn. You're absolutely right. Jack.
Yeah, I had a booster the other day, and I must say that our, of course, Pam was there. She was wonderful, as always. I would expect no less. Mary is fantastic. And I think our fire department guys who were sitting there, and they were just zipping right through that. And so it was very nice to see them working hard. And I think we as a town, owe all of them, and Glenn as well, a debt of gratitude. I don't think we realize how well run our emergency system is in Cohasset compared to other towns, but it's very well run, and kudos and congratulations to everybody who helped.
Yep. It's been a really well-run operation since we declared this state of emergency almost 2 years ago, which we are still in, as we've discussed before. So I'm not entirely sure if we still need to be having now these updates, the community health updates every meeting, but definitely we'll need to be having them at least maybe every other meeting, so we can see if we need one for next week. But thank you both so much. And Pam, tell Mary we love her too, and talked about her a lot tonight.
Will do. Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on to our field study update. Michelle, I think you're headed into the room. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey,
I feel like you've had to come to all of our meetings lately. You've been on the agenda each time. We appreciate it.
So, high level update on the field study. So things are moving along as expected per the contract. I do want to let everyone know tonight we are going to host a public forum, and that's an opportunity for the entire community to come out and provide feedback. Feedback on, scheduling and how it's sometimes challenging. That's what our consultant needs to hear. They'd like to answer questions about, what the best use for fields is. They were citing things to me like the size of field hockey fields versus all-purpose fields, and baseball diamonds versus softball. And they'd love the community to come out and give them some additional feedback on that. So this public forum is for that exact reason. It's going to be held January 26th from 6 to 7 p.m. It's on Zoom. It's posted on the website. And I'd love for everyone to participate. The more participation we get, the more successful the field study will be.
Okay. Yeah, I know a lot of people have wanted to have a forum to come share their thoughts, especially those who have played sports or in sports now. or have kids in sports. So thank you for that.
Sure.
All right, questions for Michelle, as we know this is ongoing. Diane. Welcome, Diane.
Hello, sorry I was late, work emergencies. Just a quick question on is kind of the timeline for the completion of the study and whether any anticipated action will come out of that
So
town meeting.
they anticipate, depending on the level of information they get at the public forum, could change the dates. But they're slated to complete the study by the end of March, which is on schedule. And any recommendations they have for additional fields or funding, we would know probably the first week in March if we had to slate something for town meeting. That would be up to this board to decide if they wanted to do it something for May or push it off till special town meeting in the fall. They also need participation from all the youth organizations. Scheduling's been a little tough to get from most organizations. We've pulled all the data that we can from our recreation department. So for all of you out there that run a youth organization, if you could come to this public forum and help talk about your challenges with scheduling, I think that's the piece that we're missing most. And with that piece filled in, I think they'll be well on their way to complete the study, even beginning of March.
Okay. Diane, does that answer your question? All right, Jack.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Michelle, that was a good point about the youth organizations. Can we have somebody from town hall actually physically call and contact them and make them aware of how important that is?
Sure.
And the other thing is, I know the Field Study Commission is aware that the real importance of trying to find where we can add additional fields, because one of the things that the Little League lights controversy has underscored is the fact that driving all of that issue is the fact we don't have enough fields. So finding spots to put extra fields would be wonderful, and it might help to lower the temperature in our wonderful town.
Okay.
And again, I do want to make sure we're reaching out to all the heads of all these teams and organizations that would want to come so they know what's happening, because I'm sure people have a lot of thoughts and haven't really been able to share them yet. So we want to make sure we're including all the players here. Corey, did I see your hand or did I hallucinate that?
No, I flashed it up, but I was just going to mention that, to build off what Mr. Creighton said and you just said, Carrie, is, basically, we had also a lot of outreach from parents of that have children in other youth sports and kind of the same story regardless of the sport. So this is certainly a deeper and broader issue. So Michelle, thank you for your work. And, I'm really hoping that since we're putting some real resources to this, we can find something that really sets us up for the future. Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle, by the way, I hate to volunteer. It's a bad habit. But if you feel there's some organizational heads that would make your job easier, were I to give them a personal call, I'd be more than glad to help.
Thank you.
All right. Jean.
Thank you, Michelle, for all of your hard work. Appreciate it. One just suggestion, if we wanted to go in this direction, is that the schools have a very tight, well-organized communication process, including the ability to email all the parents immediately all at once, to the extent that we want, if we don't feel like we have sufficient participation, including through the field study forum, it could be just, people aren't aware because maybe they're not checking 143 or outreach hasn't made it, or, January's been a tough month with COVID and all that's going on. And so anyway, I just wanted to throw out that maybe if need be, although I do think that we're going to get some good turnout at the field study forum, that there is another avenue if we wanted to encompass more voices in the study.
Yep.
You could also post on Anchor. Cohasset Anchor is really, a lot of people are paying attention to it.
Yeah, if Anchor is watching right now. Feel free to
Uh-oh.
publicize this. We do want to, I think the general consensus here is that we want to make sure everyone has the chance to weigh in and that we give people the avenues to be able to come speak their mind and give us their ideas. So it definitely seems like we're all on the same page with that. All right, any final thoughts on this issue? Thank you, Michelle. We hope the forum next week is well attended. All right. Moving on. The next issue, speaking of volunteering for things, Jack. Okay, so this is, let me clarify.
I think
what
I'm
this is.
muted. I think I'm muted. Oh,
Let
wait
me-
a minute. Oh,
Let me clarify what this is, because I know it wasn't maybe entirely clear to a couple board members. This is, so Jack technically is the liaison right now to our zoning bylaw working group, but this liaison appointment is specifically for the RFQ process, which involves certain dates that are already set in stone, and I have them in front of me. So for the RFQ response, this is for the interview committee and the discussions that will come from that. And planning and zoning board have already done their appointment. So what we need to do is appoint one person from select board tonight on this. And the critical dates on this, I'm double checking, sent to me by Katie Dugan. The interview committee will review proposals and rank those proposals between February 14th and 18th of next month. Then the interview committee will meet to select the finalists the week of February 21st. And then the interview committee will actually do those interviews, and that will be on, it's scheduled for Monday, February 28th from 5 to 8 p.m. So whoever we appoint tonight, Jack, whether that's you or another board member, those people, you need to be available for those dates specifically for the RFQ process.
yeah, I'm available.
Okay, so are there questions from the board on this? I know we've mentioned this before, and Katie Dugan mentioned this to us a few meetings ago, but wanted everyone to make sure we're on the same page with understanding why we're doing this. Diane.
And just clarification, this is to pick a consultant to work with the zoning bylaw working group on bylaw revisions relating to zoning.
The zoning redraft and revisions and all that stuff. Yes, correct.
Yeah, I could, if you'd like, I give just a very brief overview.
Sure, yeah.
What we have been doing is we have been going over our zoning bylaws, which haven't been revised in 35 years. But when you get into that, you find out that there are some technical legal issues and some overlaps and some legal definitions which are unclear and have different meanings in different bylaws. So you need a fairly technical consultant to go over that. And so this will do that. And some of the confusion that we had at special town meeting was because there were some kind of arcane terms that were used, and they were used in different contexts and different subsections of the various codes. And if this sounds complicated, wait till you get into it. So a consultant just consolidates that. We want to simplify it so people can do it. So it's more of a technical position. It's not really so much a policy position, but it's more of a technical drafting.
That's a good explanation, Jack. Thanks for clarifying. Okay, so if there are no other questions, do we have interest here? It technically can be any of us. Jack, I know that you technically are the liaison, so I guess tell us how you're feeling about if you want that to be you, or if anyone else on the board would like this extra work, which is very important work. Please share that with us now.
I'm willing to do that. I have the technical thing. Some of you may know I've actually participated in the complete rezoning of the Fenway in another Boston neighborhood. My professional world is rife with all kinds of zoning and your land use issues. So this is kind of in my wheelhouse. So I'm willing to do it. I don't have a great burning desire for further torture, but I think it's important that we get the right consultant so we don't have the situation arise that we had at special town meeting.
Jack, are you free for those dates and times I mentioned?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Diane and then Jean.
I was just gonna make a motion that we appoint Jack as the select board liaison to the RFQ process for the master plan implementation committee zoning bylaw working group.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Jean, any further discussion? All right, a roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, Jack Creighton, yeah.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dippold, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Thank you for volunteering, Jack.
Yeah, well,
We will.
I'm honored.
No, we appreciate it. It's not an easy liaison role there, so that it is important. So
What we should be saying thanks to is the other members of the bylaw. You know, the work and the dedication is just unbelievable. Unsung heroes. So let's sing a song for them.
you're not wrong. Okay. All right. That appointment is done. All right. Moving on to our budget update, the presentation of our FY23 draft. Very exciting. Don, I believe you're coming on here, and Chris. So I know we're getting an operational budget update and capital. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Hey, guys.
Good evening. I am just going to share my screen here with our forecast.
Perfect.
All right, you should see a PDF document up. So I'm going to do a walkthrough basically of our forecast, which we do every year, and just kind of point out some of the highlights from the revenue and expenditure side. So total revenues we're projecting for FY23 is just about 53 million. As you know, Cohasset is primarily residential taxes, which the tax levy is estimated to be at 44.2 million, about 83% of our total budget. You'll note that we did increase our new growth estimate. We've usually budgeted about 450. We increased that slightly to 500 based on some ongoing projects we know are in the pipeline and just some of the other buildings that we've been seeing come online. Our actual new growth for FY22 recap was just over 600. So we feel 500 is a reasonable increase in estimate. In the next section, state aid, cherry sheet revenue, we're keeping flat with FY22. We really won't know where the governor's budget is at until, I believe the date is January 26th, where we'll see the first cut. And just knowing kind of how last year turned out between the governor and the final budget, it was actually a small net decrease of about $4,000. So I think for now, as we're doing our projections, keeping it flat until we get more information towards the end of the month is probably a good conservative approach. Local receipts, we brought back up to pre-pandemic levels, so FY20 levels, and made some adjustments for some of the actual revenue that we've been seeing in motor vehicle excise taxes and our licensing and permits, especially in the building department section. Our new building commissioner has definitely taken a tighter approach on making sure that the permits that are being issued are reflecting proper cost values, and doing a final affidavit to make sure that the true up of the building permits is collected, which we're seeing an increase in revenue because of that. And then the next section is our other financing sources and kind of one-time receipts. A lot of this is transfers from various stabilization funds or other funds to pay for debt service. You'll see a bigger increase in capital stabilization as we just borrowed long-term on a handful of projects. So we borrowed for 5 years. So you'll see an increase on that revenue source, which is offset by an increase in debt service. Another part I'd like to point out here is the free cash that we have allocated towards OPEB and pension and the use of the pension stabilization fund. Back in FY21, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, trying to come up with consistent services for the town without impacting departments, we ended up using free cash to to essentially balance the budget. And so we are working to bring our whole budget back into just the tax levy funding the budget. And so you'll see over the last 2 or 3 years, we've definitely decreased the usage of the free cash and pension stabilization fund, which is great. But we're still working our way back to make sure that our full budget is fully supported by our tax levy and other receipts, such as state aid, local receipts. So our total revenue projected as of today is just under 53 million. I could stop here and answer any questions if you have it, or I could just move on and get into our shared expenses.
Anyone? Thank you, Don. Anyone have any questions so far? All right, I don't think I see any hands yet, so go ahead and keep going, Don.
All right. So the next section, other amounts to be raised. This is really mostly consists of our state and county offsets, which again have been held flat from last year, since we'll know more about this at the end of January when the state numbers come out. The next section down, we've continued our commitment to funding capital at about $2 million. We've maintained and continued our commitment to the OPEB trust fund, which, as you know, a couple of years ago, select board has approved a funding policy for this, starting at 500,000, increasing 3% per year. So the change in the increase is captured in our upfront general fund budget at annual town meeting, and then the remainder of that commitment is done at special town meeting. And then just the other areas that I'd like to highlight in the shared budget, emergency management, especially since what we've seen through the pandemic, emergency management has taken a big role in assisting not just town departments, but also the school department. So we have moved that department above the line for the forecasting and the calculation of new revenue for town and school departments. Again, it's 49,000. It's not a huge increase in our above the line cost, but because this department really touches every organization within the town, it made sense to kind of move this above the line, be able to fund this first before we get into the breakout of town and school share of new revenue. And then just a few other assumptions I'd like to point out that really impact the shared budgets and the overall available increase to town and school. Our health insurance. We've been really lucky the last few years to be held at a low, if nothing, increase in our rate. But based on some of the information we received from our health insurance carriers and partners, is that our utilization, our claims data has definitely increased in the last year. People going back to the doctors, maybe getting procedures done and things like that, where we're actually seeing the utilization increase. And from our preliminary discussions with Maya, they want us to estimate a little bit higher than the 0%. So I think they initially came in at a 7 to 10% estimate for us to budget. We're hoping that doesn't come in at 7%, but that's where we are focusing now. And as you know, I mean, $5.3 million budget, 7%, we're getting up to almost 5.8 in just 1 year, 500,000. So that's a big driver. We have our actual pension appropriation for next year. So that's not even an estimate. We know that's going up 7.3%. That's another big number there. And then our property casualty is another larger area as well. And they've, again, working with Maya and Cabot Risk, estimating about 7.5% increase there as well. So some of our insurances and our pension are really taking up some of the shared budgets, but there's really nothing we can do. We have wellness programs in place. We work with Maya on safety and making sure we're OSHA compliant. And we go through all the safety checklists to make sure we're getting the best rate and discounts possible. But you know, there's nothing we can really do otherwise, and we kind of just have to wait and see where the pool kind of plays out and where we fall in some of these health insurance and property casualty pools. So moving on, once we get to our total revenues less all our shared expenses, excuse me, we get to a net change year over year, which is just over $1 million or 3.02%. And that is shared with the school department and town, 61%, 39% respectively. And so 649,000 additional to the school budget and 415 to the town side. We've received all the town requests. We are currently working through those. And in the next few weeks, we'll be sharing all the detailed budget line items with you folks and advisory as we start planning all our meetings with advisory for the departments that they'll be hearing. And there'll be line item details, and then each department's kind of section from the budget document that we'll be sharing over the next few weeks. And then we can go from there with further review of the departments and budgets. And that is essentially what I have for the forecast in our FY23 forecast.
Okay. Thank you, Don. These updates are really helpful. And the more that we do them, I know all of us feel a little more knowledgeable about the budget as we're going through the quarters. Questions that we have for Don on this update? Jean?
Thank you, Don. Appreciate the update. I noticed that, and I would say this is probably like the 10-day forecast, but as you project out over the years, in terms of the net revenue, we think it's getting smaller and smaller with each progressive year. So this year we're at $1 million at sort of additional net revenue. Next year it's in the 500s, and then 3 years out it's in the 200s of additional money to play with. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, we really focus in on the upcoming year, and the forecast, again, they're assumptions, but they state aid. We can't really plan on them giving us much more than we got last year. So I don't put in a growth factor for the future years for that. And I've kind of stuck with that for local receipts lately as well. We're rebounding from the pandemic, even though we've been able to feel comfortable bringing those budget numbers back up to pre-pandemic levels with some adjustments. Still, we're still rebounding, and we're really trying to see where we're coming in. We're comfortable with what we have. But then again, we know what our pension is for next year. Norfolk County, they usually have us estimate 10% increase year over year. So, I mean, that really eats into any revenue growth. And same thing with health insurance. I think all our out years are at 6%. And those are two of the biggest numbers in our shared budget. And again, out of a $53 million revenue or budget, 48 or 43,000, 83% of that is all tax levy. So the growth is limited mostly to that. There's not much more room to play around with local receipts. And again, unfortunately, it's with our tax base and tax levy being our biggest driver, there's not much flexibility we have in growth.
Mm-hmm.
You have a follow-up, Jean?
I don't even know if this is a productive question, but I know there's a lot of concerns about inflation and how it's really just driving up a lot of costs potentially on the shared side. Is that something that, and I think that's very hard to probably assess, but you know, maybe we're dealing with that, for example, when it comes to municipal repairs, and we might get to that with the capital budget, but I do think that there's sort of a growing concern about, you know, inflation and how it's going to potentially also increase requests on the personnel side too.
Sure. I mean, definitely we've had our meetings with our departments already. And, you know, facilities, DPW, they've accounted for what they're seeing for contract increases. Some of our, you know, quarterly services, elevator repairs or inspections, you know, like you said, the personnel side, just the collective, not the collective bargaining, but their union rates have increased And again, just supplies as well.
Yeah.
We're seeing an increase across the board. So those have been factored into the various department budgets. As again, in the next few weeks, we'll be sharing all of that with you folks, and we can kind of get into more deeper questions there with the specific departments.
I can just piggyback onto that as well. So one of the other drivers, inflationary side, is energy costs. So we actually are in good shape on that. We actually have locked in contracts for gas, for example. We just extended that with this. It's a consortium with school districts and towns in the region. We have good pricing on that. And we also have built-in savings because of credits we have for renewable energy, both from our solar array here at the landfill and other agreements we have. So we've actually locked those in too. Now that doesn't mean we're not going to be susceptible to changes down the road, but for the next year or two, we're still in pretty good shape. And all the work that we've done to retrofit buildings has actually started to come to show benefits too. So it's kept our utility costs fairly flat. Now cold weather still means we spend more money to heat, right? That said, at least we have pricing that's not, you know, I look at the pricing for oil and gas just to see where things going, and we see what oil prices are doing, we see what gas prices are doing. We're still going to be paying more at the pump. That said, we're also on state contract for some of those things. So it does help us. That said, inflation can affect the entire economy. It's not, right. You know, it's pens, it's supplies. It's so that said, as Don points out, we have factored some of that in, and we'll have to see where it goes. Hopefully it'll flatten out a little bit. It hasn't put, unfortunately, even if it puts upward pressure on wages, it doesn't raise the tax revenues, right?
Right.
Inflation drives costs, but it doesn't drive revenues, unfortunately, not for us. So it is something we'll have to watch.
Yeah, good point. And just with the supply chain issues in general, right? That we're hoping that levels out, like you said, but a lot of businesses are dealing with it and a lot of cities and towns are dealing with it too. Diane.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's been a long day of Zooming. Just two things. One thing, I think after we get through the FY23 budget cycle, it might be worth putting our heads together and having some really big picture, long range financial planning discussions as it relates to revenues in particular. I mean, because eventually, you know, we've talked about this town being so built out. Eventually we're gonna, those new growth numbers are gonna come down, and we're not going to be relying on that so much. There's only so much growth that we can withstand. And also looking at our financial policies that I think were established in 2013, 2014. It's just, you know, we really haven't had a deep dive on that. And so I think there's a bigger conversation to have. I don't think it's part of necessarily the FY23 budgeting cycle, but I would like to see us do that. And then also with respect to ARPA, I mean, it's one-time money. So I would argue that it should be spent on one-time costs. And I think at some point we need to have that discussion of how that might overlay some of the operational, you know, can it cover something that is otherwise in our capital budget or whatnot. And MSA was planning, the Mass Select Board Association was planning on having somebody speak about ARPA spending and kind of best practices from a town perspective. And we just got a notification today that no town has figured it out yet. So the person that was scheduled to talk about it being figured out thinks we should have a different kind of conversation, and they were reaching out. Does anybody know anybody that's figured it out? So just rest assured that I don't think anybody's figured it out yet, but it is something obviously that we have to pay attention to and can relieve some things in some aspects of our budgeting.
And I think your point about one-time costs there, Diane, is really important and something we need to be talking about more.
Yeah.
Just to depth on this tonight, we have really used our recovery money for one time, you know, for and spiked expenses like overtime, where we've been able to, we've gotten FEMA reimbursements for the clinics, things like that, right? We have not used them to fund permanent payroll positions because it's just not a smart thing to do. Because that money's going away. So it doesn't mean you can't use it for bridge funding for certain things. In fact, we're likely to recommend putting some of it away to secure safe harbor, for example. We have another grant that's coming up, but you know, the capital is the other thing. I mean, it's not just, the revenue pays for everything, including capital. So it is, we are going to have a joint meeting in the not too distant future. We're trying to set something up with Capital Advisory and you folks just to talk about some of the big picture stuff and where to go in terms of infrastructure planning, because a lot of it to do. At the same time, obviously revenue pays for everything. So you got to figure out a way to make it all
right. Jack.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Diane had a very good point about the ARPA money, and just for the people at home, ARPA is the government money that was sent because of the pandemic. So it really is a one-time boost, and it should be spent for one-time costs. Yeah, maybe a little bridge here and there. But overall, what happens with inflation is it builds 6.8%, which is what it was in November. It's, I think, 7% in December. And there are different ways to measure it, but it all feeds in and it starts compounding. So by the time we see it on our budget, we're going to have some built-in permanent price increases. And Diane's right, the growth is over. There will be continuing growth, but there's two things. Number one, people in town are pretty much saying we like Cohasset the way it is. We don't want it to be kind of wall-to-wall development of whatever course. So we can't expect to be bailed out on that. So I think it's good that we're looking at it now. And I think it's good that the select board now is looking at it, because this crisis is going to start, it'll probably really hit in about 3 years. And when it hits, it'll be too late to forestall it. So we need to start planning.
All right. Any other final thoughts on this? Don, thank you. That was helpful.
We'll be back with more details soon as we jump in. So we're going to be doing the same conversation tomorrow with the kind of set their schedule, and then we'll be providing more of the detail sheets for all of you. To couple with this, we'd like to pivot over to capital, and I have Michelle with us tonight. She's returning to the stage.
You never get to leave us, Michelle.
This is her encore performance tonight, and it's going to walk through. If we can give her screen sharing ability, Tracy, then Michelle's going to just give a quick look at what's in the capital plan proposals. It's not funded yet, right? Because we can't fund everything. But this is a look at where we are at the moment.
Okay, so before I go through the capital plan, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how we got here. We start this process in September, and we reach out to all of the departments and ask them to give us a wish list, as well as the most needed items to keep their department running. They project over 10 years, which is essentially that wish list. When we get into FY23, which is the current year, it's really based on total need for whichever it may be, whichever project they're putting forth. We vet all of these items internally first. We meet with Dawn and Chris and talk about them with each department. And oftentimes we can kind of truncate their lists a little bit. And then the second step is to go before the Capital Budget Committee. The Capital Budget Committee implemented a process last year where they assign liaisons to each department. The reason for that is each department will have their liaison to vet their requests with prior to going before the entire board. It saves a lot of time and it answers a lot of questions in advance. The liaisons are reaching out to their departments as we speak. Many have already concluded their assessments with their departments, and we'll be meeting as a group as soon as next week. So as far as FY23, the items that are put forth, without going through each individual item, we can see here the facilities has many projects that aren't really theirs. So it stays within their budget, but it covers the DPW, the fire, the police, the library, and the schools. The only thing facilities is actually requesting is a new service vehicle. All the other requests are from other departments. You have items here from DPW, which is equipment. they have an equipment cycle, and as things age and parts are no longer available, we surplus their vehicles and they replace them. There are 2 items here that we pulled money out of. It was for a Sawyer Street parking lot and the tennis course reconstruction. We removed those because we want to wait until that field study is complete before we put any numbers in here. There's new facility assessment for fire and police. Police obviously have their vehicle maintenance program where 2 vehicles roll off and they get 2 new vehicles. We have personal protective clothing for the fire department. IT is a big one, security upgrades. So capital budget will be working closely with them to vet the security upgrades that they'll be implementing. And then you have the school department here. The school bus lease is something that we fund annually. And all these items are just maintenance to the schools. You'll see here, CEA is asking for a new vehicle. Harbor is not asking for anything at the present time. Recreation doesn't have any requests in at the present time. And the total here is $4 million. While Don reminds us constantly that we don't have $4 million to fund capital projects. We have about $2 million. The capital budget committee, when they meet with all these departments, will see what's a necessity and what's nice to have. And that's how the process works. But we're at phase 2 of the process where capital will start meeting next week, and we'll have a more refined list for you in the coming weeks.
Okay. And yes, thanks to Paul Kearse for reminding us in the conversation, don't forget the seniors, the van for mobility.
It's right here.
Yep. Okay, this is really helpful to see. Thank you, Michelle. Questions on this? Any surprises, any feelings? Jean.
Thanks, Michelle. One question I had is it possible during this process, I'm looking at, for example, the Government Island Pier reconstruction. It strikes me that something where there could possibly be grant eligible, particularly if we're rebuilding with resiliency factored in. And so I was just wondering if there's sort of unique projects that stand out like that, how we factor in that analysis into the potential process where, again, you know, that jumps out to me as potential grants, maybe if we do it correctly. And then is there anything on the list that might be an candidate for ARPA? I'm not sure, but
that's a good question.
And those are the questions that come up through Chris's review and through the capital budget review. The $600,000 you see for the harbor, that is the portion that town would be responsible for if we do receive Seaport Economic Council funding.
Okay.
So that would be the town's portion. I believe this project is going to be pushed to FY24. I don't think it's going to stay in FY23 where it is. We're working on another project right now where we have Seaport Council funding for. So you almost want to finish out one project before you start another with that level of funding. You do have your chapter 90 for the roads in DPW. And then we always do look at grant opportunities. So if you look at the schools numbers, oftentimes if it's HVAC related, windows, doors, anything like that, you can apply to MSBA for additional funding. So those are the questions that come up with the liaisons first and then the committee as a whole.
Right. Good.
The flip side, I'm sorry, the flip side, Jane, is that some of the expenses, like for example, on IT, will actually reduce the operating budget because some of the things that Ron's requesting will push some of what we do into the cloud, which will cut our operating costs for some of the equipment, which is good, just an upfront expense. So some of that ties back that way as well.
Yep, all good clarifications. Other questions? Are we good? All
More
right.
to come. This is only the beginning.
Yeah. Be continued.
To be continued.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Don. That was really helpful. All right.
Hey, Carrie, I'm sorry. I did have one further question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jean.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, it's fine.
The new facility assessment for police and fire, that strikes me as a pretty big decision, sort of along the lines of it is, and I guess this is just a thought, it strikes me that we probably need a more formal process than it's sort of landing through a capital plan through the regular capital budget process. And Chris, maybe this is a part of what we'll be discussing in the next upcoming weeks, but that does strike me as a unique item that's not a part of our customary operations and maintenance, I guess is my point. So maybe it should be considered in a separate category.
That's a fair point. I mean, there's work that has to be done just to plan. I mean, this is not any kind of design. This is not like in blueprints or anything like that. This is moving the project from a conversation to something that's on paper. And that said, it's part of the bigger conversation, because an actual new public safety facility is a multi-million-dollar cost. There's no question. We're actually hoping to get data back, I think, in the next couple of weeks, Michelle, about a piece of land that we're looking at that might allow us to be more flexible than what we have today, which could be exciting. And if that bears fruit, we'll be back in front of you looking for something to go on the warrant. But we won't continue that conversation tonight. But it's a fair point that there's a lot of bigger ticket stuff, and I think that'll be coming in the bigger conversations we'll have shortly.
And that might need to result in a separate committee. I mean, we have a school facilities committee, we have a town hall building committee, we might need a public safety facility committee, something about that, because again, that's a huge project and we would need to have a lot of work done on it. Jack.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Carrie. It's important that we understand that we shouldn't be backing into major town impacting projects, that we ought to decide that we're going to do something before we kind of back in and plan for it and all that. And, you know, if a police fire joint facility is something that really is a town-wide discussion, that is a strategic plan for the town. So I think it's fair to involve the whole town to see what the town thinks about that and not back into it. So I think, Carrie, that was a good point, and Jean made basically the same point.
Okay, Corey.
I think it's worth clarifying for the public about, you know, what this list is. It's not at all a shopping list of what we're doing today or tomorrow. It's not that at all. It's purely putting every idea that we have of something which we may need to watch out for in the future. We're not voting on, it's not even our thing. Capital budget does this. We're just giving kind of, you know, we are receiving the information so that we're informed. This is not, again, this is not us spending money. This is us saying, hey, listen, there's a building over there that we should probably just keep tabs on. And I think that's an important context the public understands as we're talking about making a process for this. We're not there yet. We're just talking about, hey, if this is something, we need to have it at least on the radar so we understand that it could be coming down the road. It may not, it may do this, but this is just purely so that we have all the ducks in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really the right analogy.
It's fine. Go with the ducks. It's
right. Lots of ducks, you know, there's a bear in there, but you know, just so we all understand that there's a lot of stuff in town that may need money later on, and we just need to have that context as we make decisions. Just wanted to clarify that.
Well said, Corey.
And just to put a capstone on this, it's important to understand what the challenges are and the operational needs so you can plan. That's kind of what we're talking about. We're at that basic a stage. It's like, you know, how many bays do we have? How many pieces of equipment do we don't store things properly now. One of the challenges we're having is trying to find a home for an ambulance, because the one that's going to be retired has a snub nose and fits in the water department, and the one that we're going to be making number 2 has a big nose and it doesn't fit in that. So we've been scrambled to find space, and facilities has no home. And, we store a lot of vehicles outside in the snow, probably the best way to do it. So part of when with public facilities safety, it's not planning a building. It's really, what do we need and what would it look like in terms of pieces, not necessarily even where or how much, because you're right, the town can't, in order to have an intelligent conversation, the community has to have that. You want to get as many facts on the table as possible. That's what school facilities is doing now, right?
Right.
Meeting actually as we speak to get someone to come on and do kind of look at the school like a bigger broad brush than we did last year or 2 years ago, to say what the real needs here, because it's a long process to figure out what they really need to do. So this is the kind of level we are at with public safety. It's really just kind of assessing what the needs are and what the projected needs are, so you can begin that planning. We're a long way from proposing an actual building.
Okay. Well said, everyone. All right, any final thoughts on this? Are we done now? All right, speaking of planning and facilities, time to move on to our regional sewer discussion. And I want to welcome in our sewer commissioners. Let's get you guys in here. All right, Bill, Paul, and Wayne, you're officially in the room. Can you all hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, guys. Welcome. I know that during our meeting 2 weeks ago, we said we really wanted to have a joint meeting to continue this discussion, and it's really important that we do. So thank you all for being willing to stay late and come talk to us. This discussion is ongoing and it's important. And I know you guys need to start with opening your meeting. And then Bill, I was going to let you maybe introduce your board and help us begin the discussion here on these issues that we started talking about a couple weeks ago related to the harbor and Situate and the regional aspects and all that stuff. So Bill, do you want to officially open your meeting?
Yes, I'd like to call this meeting to order. President are Bill McGowan, Paul Kearse, and Wayne Sawchuk.
Great. Bill, I'm going to defer to you and then we can go to my board on this issue. I know that this is, all of you have put a lot of time into this. Paul, I know you're a little bit more new to the issue, but you're not new to helping town and being part of our community and being part of other things. So this has been an issue that's been going on for years. I want you to start, Bill. Tell us a little bit about how you're feeling, how your group is feeling here, and then we can move on to let members of the select board talk.
It's been an interesting development. We have been working on this. I think Wayne and I, and Paul obviously is new, but John Beck was with us. We've been
long time
discussing with. This started with a discussion with the Hull Sewer Board back 9.5 years ago, maybe longer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can pardon me for 1 second, I'm trying to turn my TV off so I can.
Oh, no problem.
Won't work. So, so we've been doing that, and then there was an impetus to get into the regional sewer, which Woodard and Curran got. There was a grant. I'll give you the short story. We went to some of the meetings and had conversations with the town managers of Situate and with Hull.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of died off. And then COVID came and we had a meeting last April, I think it was, I think in 21 maybe, or and then
It's
there's
all
been
a blur since COVID, so it's okay.
Yeah. And then there's been a rejuvenation all of a sudden as to what's going on. And I think, you know, as I've had conversations with Corey about this to a certain extent, that I think there's just been some, you know, missteps, but, you know, willing to look at that. I just think there needs to be a clear understanding of what the responsibilities of the sewer board vis-a-vis any kind of expansion of the sewer system within the town of Cohasset. I'm going to give you an example. when the Little Harbor project was going on, the sewer board managed the entire process, soup to nuts. And we expect to do the same for anything that's an expansion of the sewer system or districts, any kind of intermunicipal, additional, intermunicipal agreements with Hull and or Situate, and anything else that occurs that is within our purview. It is within the Chapter 147 state law that was signed in 2013. And, that's sort of my opening statement. And we're obviously very willing to, the only reason we're here is for the betterment of the town.
Yep.
And, and the sewer board in particular is looking at, that jewel behind my head of the Cohasset Harbor, and stuff that comes in from the Gulf is, it makes it not as attractive as it could be. So, and that's why I'm here.
Well said. It's why we're all here, Bill.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and again, I know that we may disagree on things, but we are on the same team and we all want what's best for the town. And we especially want to make sure we can preserve it for future generations. And there are some very valid concerns about the state of our infrastructure and the environmental issues here. And I think that we really can explore some ways that we all can be on the same page with this. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and if I can make one question, one comment, is that I would like to get a comment or sort of initial comment from my fellow board members. So I don't want to be the only one speaking.
No, that's, absolutely. Wayne and Paul, before select board talks, we would love to hear from both of you.
So just for the record, I've been on the commission now for a year. So it is equivalent to 7 dog years. So
that's a very fair point. Can that be valid for select board too?
So I've been very educated on the past as well as the present. I do agree with Bill's opening statements. And Carrie, your statement about what's best for our town is what should drive these decision tree for Cohasset. I think that understanding what we need to do for the town of Cohasset, it should be on the forefront. Anything we do in addition to that is in addition to that. So I think that those Situate has a desire to expand their sewer system is a desire of Situate. It has no impact on Cohasset. We have to make our own decisions on what's best for Cohasset. And this regional sewer proposition is on face value nice to understand, but currently there is no regional sewer problem. I wanted to kind of make that point that in order for there to be a regional sewer problem, there has to be 2 or more towns that have a problem with sewer. And currently Hull has no sewer problem and Cohasset has no sewer problem. Situate doesn't have a sewer problem. They just have a desire to expand their sewer district. So I wanted to make that point so that we all know where we're starting from. There's been a lot of talk about the Gulf, for instance, and some of the issues surrounding cleaning the Gulf. And those issues have been addressed to a limited extent. They do need to be expanded upon. Presentations have been given to the Board of Selectmen probably about 3 or 4 years ago, in which the selectmen were given a specific drainage master plan, which addressed how we would solve the problems in the Gulf. And the selectmen had adopted that plan. I'm not sure that the current select board members are familiar with that plan, so we can go ahead and resend that plan out to all the current members so that they're educated
That'd be great.
on
It
that
probably was
plan.
only Diane, I think, that was part of that.
Right. So Diane has unfortunately the legacy knowledge or tribal
does.
knowledge there. I know Jack has been involved quite a bit from his experience on conservation. I can tell you that we're open to ideas that may be presented to us from time to time from abutting towns, but the primary issue that we have for Cohasset is what are we doing as a sewer commission to address the needs of the residents of the town. So a couple of things that have been done. One main issue that had been done is that we had sewered basically about 75 or 80% of the coastline to address what DEP said was a problem. When DEP had issued their decree, they identified areas in the town that needed a remedy. And Cohasset Sewer Commission had identified and solved those problems with a remedy of sewering those areas that DEP felt were a problem. The Gulf River was not part of that issue. The town had a lot of input, and the commission had responded to it and solved those issues. One thing that the commission had done in addition to that was to identify sewering Border Street, which has been completed. So that's the whole east side of the Gulf River that has been sewered. So the only part left of the Gulf River that has not been sewered is South Main. The sewer commissioner had made some decisions several years ago that we had a desire to sewer South Main Street so that the entire coastline and its rivers would be sewered to the extent that there would be no additional risk basically pending if everyone stayed on septic on South Main into the Gulf River and then into the harbor. So the decision to sewer South Main was not part of the DEP remedy. It's something that the sewer commissioner decided to do on its own. That is something that we've had a plan for the number of, I don't know, 3 to 5 years that we've had it on our radar to do. It's something that we haven't implemented yet. That is something that the abutting town has kind of latched onto as a solution to their need or their desire to expand their sewer system. So I think that where we are today is that the sewer commission needs to fulfill its obligation to the residents of Cohasset as to what we're doing to continue our sewer plan. And once we complete that, then at that point, we can entertain the abutting town's desire to hook into that system if that is something that would meet the concerns of the town of Cohasset.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Wayne, your turn. You're muted, Wayne.
There we go.
There we go.
Here we go.
What I want to do is just give you a very short breakdown on what I think the current plan is without knowing the current plan that's likely to be proposed by the 3 towns, and one that I want you to understand so that you know what the good parts are and the bad parts. I think the plan is to increase the size of the pipe that we're putting down South Main Street, the possibility of them paying the fee or the price to bring it from North Cohasset to our treatment plant, and they would want a 180,000 gallon a day permit to send that through our system, which means that what they want to do is have us open up our gates to Hull, for which we can only do about 140,000 gallons a day with the size pipes that are there, send that sewage to Hull, and then treat their sewage at our treatment plant and keep it going out of our outfall pipe. The end result of this is we gain no additional capacity at all, and we don't have the ability to increase our capacity because the network of pipes that they're using with their capacity is filling up the entire capacity. Okay, so it means that, wait a minute, we got someone that may be interested in paying us some money, but what are we going to do with any expansion that we want to do? And the bigger part of that is our system was not designed to take 140,000 or 180,000 gallons to Situate. That was something that when we had a break, we were able to turn every valve on that we could, and it ended up being the 140 to 160,000 gallons, not the 180. And right while that was happening, one of the connections broke, so we had to reduce the capacity that was going to Hull. Now, this was when our plant had a problem, and we had to stop treating because we couldn't get rid of the water. We couldn't treat the water, so we were sending it to Hull. So I just want you to know that whatever we do, we have to make sure that Cohasset's interests now and in the future are absolutely taken care of. Now, there are actually 5 different options that a deal with Situate could entail. One is to have Situate run a pipe to Hull directly, 6-inch pipe from Cohasset to Hull, connect on in North Situate, and it's their pipe, they maintain it, and they can send the flow to Hull. That can be done either down the railroad bed, possibly down Route 3A from North Situate to Hull Street, through a connection through Cohasset, going through our town, going down South Main Street, going down North Main Street, going down to Forest Avenue, going up over that. Now, those are costs that are quite substantial. The other thing is that one of the reasons that this broke down was that when the consultants gave us the figure of $39,500,000 as the cost to connect Situate to Hull and run a line that they want us to do in the current fee there. From North Cohasset, they want us to run a new 6-inch line from North Cohasset to the treatment plant, which is 5 or 6 miles away at a cost of $10 million or so. So what is being thought of and what it has to be negotiated is very, very significant numbers. You know, you're just crazy numbers. And we have an option for Cohasset alone, and it's been researched a little bit, of doing a satellite treatment plant. So in fact, Cohasset Sewer can expand without much work for a much lower cost. And so part of my thing is that your proposed motion doesn't really fit with what it is. A little bit of you know, some sort of first of all, it says improving resident health by cleaning up pollution along entering our harbor and beaches. We are improving the environment, and the environment is where we live and what we do. We're not responsible for the septage that ends up on Sandy Beach or somewhere else. You need to go ahead and stop having dogs run wild down there. That's where the treatment comes from. And the other thing is, we treat our septage good enough to meet all of the present requirements that we have, including the nitrate levels. You don't know this, but the nitrate levels coming out of our plant are 4 times or 3 times the amount that are coming down the Gulf River today, meaning the nitrates are coming in, which also include fertilizer and everything else. And sewering South Main Street will help take anything that's coming there, but it's really coming off-site and running down through North Situate up through 3A. It's taking nitrates from the nursery that's on 3A that's right on the river, and the river's going down. So it's coming from other sources, but it isn't pollution that we're creating. So it really should, my feeling is that what we should do is have PM Fahey come in and sit and tell you and us where the pollution's coming from, where it's not coming from our treatment plant, and it's not coming from individual homes that are immediately in the area. It's coming from a different area. And that area is very possibly Hull, because Hull's treatment plant does not have to treat any nitrates at all. They can put anything in it because they have an outfall, an ocean outfall. And they have a capacity of 4 to 6 million gallons a day, because most of it isn't treated to any level that we treat ours. So we're sending cleaner stuff to them than than they're putting out in the ocean. So those are my comments.
All right. Thank you, Wayne. All right. So it might be easy just to go through our board now and hear comments from everyone on here. I think that was really helpful to hear the three of your perspectives on this. Do we want to just run through our board with comments and then kind of do a discussion? Diane and then Corey.
Corey, do you want me to defer to you? Are you going to tee this up? I just have a couple of kind of basic questions.
And we can do
not
a question
necessarily-
discussion. I just want to make sure everyone has a chance to.
I'm happy. I mean, yeah, Diane, if you think I'm going to answer some stuff that you're going to bring up, I'm happy to just keep. Okay.
Yeah, why don't you take it over, because you've been our liaison, and then I'll hold my questions.
Got it. Yeah. So, obviously the first thing that strikes me is that the sewer. Thank you, all three of you, for being here tonight, and you all kind of brought up very different things, and I do think we've got some work to do on kind of getting through some of the information to be sure that we're all kind of working from the same spreadsheet of data. One thing Mr. Keir said was that Border Street is sewered. Did I hear you say that, Paul? That wasn't my understanding when I met with Situate. I didn't believe that Border Street was sewered. Do I have?
It's all the way to the town line plus one house in Situate.
Oh, so our Border Street, not Situate Border Street. Okay, just wanted to be
correct.
Clear. Yeah. So
we're only responsible for Cohasset currently.
No, correct. So we've had the map before about the Gulf River. Obviously, there's a whole lot of half the houses on one side of the Gulf River are in another town. So that's just to clarify that for people that are watching. The other thing is that obviously what we're Mr. Sawchuk brought up numbers and figures, and I think there's a lot of things we need to dive into, including obviously part of the discussion is going to have to be if again, we're not even down the road of voting on a plan. We're just saying, should we keep talking about this? And the issue that Mr. Sawchuk brought up about, well, what exactly is the number that we're going to allow Situate to connect through is obviously one of the biggest things we have to deal with, because to his point, we don't want to do this and be, behind. We want to be sure whatever we do here benefits our town, but also gives us a little bit of headroom. I also think, though, that the idea of a satellite treatment plant is something that we should probably, if that's really seriously on the table, I think the town, I think the town deserves to know exactly what that means, what that costs, where that would go, what the neighbors would think, what else that would mean. I mean, I know I don't know nearly as much about you, but if you put a sewer treatment plant and then you put pipes to it, I think, it's pretty hard to stop people from connecting. So I just don't want to I want to be sure that we have options that we all understand. And if that's really an option, then we really, I would encourage your board to kind of be, to bring this up so that people can give you feedback on what that is. As I see this right now, I see, the issues of, obviously I had that article earlier from the Cohasset Mariner, which is basically saying that the pollution in the Gulf had a fecal component to it. So there's probably, nitrogen from other places. There's probably a lot of stuff, and, dogs in Sandy Beach, that's a different problem as well. And certainly one that rises to, the need to do something about it. But when it comes to the harbor, the data and the science that I've been given and I've seen and read is that it really is a failed septic failed leaching field issue. And
So we
that's-
haven't seen any of that data, and we have received nothing from Mass DEP stating that that is the issue. So we'd like to see that data.
Okay, I'm just speaking from what has been published. So
Okay.
if we want to unpack that, and and if it turns out that's not the case, then we should have a different discussion. Or not a discussion, because I think that's the baseline assumption here. The baseline assumption is that there's pollution in the Gulf, and it's coming a lot from this, and that's really what's driving it. If that's
Right. So
wrong,
so Mass DEP did not identify the Gulf at all when they issued the decree.
that was a while ago, correct?
Right. So pollution has always been a while ago.
No, but I'm
So
saying it's possible that this, and a decree is one thing. I think
right,
as a policy for the town, waiting until the state to decree something is probably not the best forward-looking policy. We don't want to be forced into do something.
So we don't disagree with that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is you're implying that there's a high level of contaminant in the Gulf that warrants immediate action, and Mass DEP has not identified that, and I don't believe Pam and her department has identified that.
Some of the data that I'm aware of is the fact that we had to close Bassings Beach and the harbor to swimming for the better part of 2.5 months. That was DEP and our Department of Health that did that action. So there's certainly a data set which suggests there's a concern here, so much that we're recommending not people get in the water.
Right. So the identifying markers for that, Pam could help us understand that those could be from things other than somebody's septic system. So that's what the sewer commission is concerned with, is if there's failed septic systems that are dumping into the Gulf, that's a different issue than what you're identifying.
Okay, so I think we can all agree that getting that data set's probably very important.
Right.
The question I have is, does that preclude
Hold on,
us
Jack. I see your hand up. Let Corey finish his thought.
talking with our neighbors about, whether or not there's something we can do here with that saves our town money by, again, if we have a partner that's willing to help fund certain things, if that's an opportunity we want to take advantage of, but only again if it's to benefit the town. I don't think anyone here is suggesting that we sacrifice this town in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Just to be clear, the sewer commission is not driven by funding mechanisms. We're driven by solving a problem for the residents of the town. So funding doesn't come into play.
Okay, so that's interesting to hear. I was under the impression that perhaps if there was some action on South Main, the ability to lower the cost of residents on that front may be something that's attractive to the people that are on that.
Right. So the decision to sewer South Main is not based on funding.
Okay.
It's to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Corey, we could either do it ourselves, or as in one of the meetings we had with the town manager from Situate, who I believe is attending on now. We basically said that, we could, this was a potential go down South Main, Gannett to border and come around to get all that, because that's probably a large component of the pollution that comes into the Gulf. And his comment was that we would pay for that. Now, we on our own are looking at doing South Main if this doesn't happen. So, there has to be, I think, a few further discussion on what could happen. I mean, we haven't talked to anybody. I think, what was it, last April? I think it was. Or was that when we last spoke? So, I think that's a piece that we should probably talk about. And I would prefer that the full board is there and we can, like flush out all the things that are out there. There's a billion permutations to this thing, and I think they're all solvable. We just need to surface them so people see what we're doing.
Well, and to interject here, I really like the options we're bringing up, because I think this is important to talk about all the various options here. Wayne, you started talking about it. And I also want to say too, just because some of these ideas might help Situate and Hull, I don't think necessarily means they don't also help Cohasset. right? I think there's a narrative out there that if we do one of these regionalization options, it's going to hurt us and help surrounding towns. And I don't necessarily think that's true based on the data. I think there are some options here that could help all of us. But I think discussing these options are really critical. And there's clearly a pollution issue here. Whether we're arguing about how it's gotten there and how much relates to sewer, there's definitely a critical issue with that I think we need to discuss further.
If I could add 2 points.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I said 2 weeks ago, the primary reason that I joined, other than being volunteered by one of my past sewer commissioners, was that I wanted to see the Gulf sewer, so that because we're the repository. And I can tell you from my limited experience with Little Harbor, we want to do this before the EPA or any other regulatory agency gets into us, because if that happens, it becomes a very I'll be diplomatic and say it'll be a very nasty event.
Right. So the commission made that decision already. So we've sewered 100% of the east side of the Gulf River already.
Right. Right.
So the only thing left in the town is that west side, which is South Main. So as you know, if you go south on South Main, you'll know that once you go past Beechwood, if you look to the left side of yourself, you'll see that's all the Gulf River going in. Now on the right side is a higher elevation, and what the problem we have there is that all of that I&I is flowing down into the Gulf side, right? So I do want to recognize Scott Pappas is on, as well as Dan Coughlin. Scott is with Woodard and Curran, who run the facility, and Dan Coughlin is our resident expert on the sewer systems, and he has been for 20 years for the town of Cohasset. So those gentlemen are both on tonight, and I can tell you that these decisions were not made lightly on South Main. This was a decision to, as Bill said, was to basically mitigate any potential risk in the future. That's why we decided that we'd move to South Main. Now, the motion that you had presented to us is somewhat different than what the commission is doing. We're planning on sewering South Main. We already have an agreement with Hull. That Hull agreement is until 2026 or something like that. It's quite extensive. So we don't need to have an agreement with Hull. We already have one. So there isn't any regional sewer agreement that we need to have. Whatever motions you guys decide to do is on your own. We already have an agreement with Hull. We already know what we're doing with Hull. We've already have experience in executing that agreement. And we're fine with that agreement with Hull. So I think what we need to do is understand what we're doing to protect the harbor, Gulf River included. And once we identify what we're doing there, then we can understand what we need to do if Situ would like to hook up.
So, and just to clarify for the public watching, the motion everyone's talking about, it was a proposed regional partnership motion that we can put up on the screen. I don't think we're ready to get there yet, but all right. I feel like commissioners, we've heard from you a lot. I want to let the board weigh in more. Corey, I don't think you had a chance to finish your presentation completely. Do you have more thoughts? If not, Jack and Diane both have hands.
I was only going to tweak just the proposed motion of what we're talking about is just for the select board. I mean, earlier, Mr. McGowan said that maybe in the future, the sewer board may want to meet with Situate, and their whole board, and that's great. But I feel like our board should give the green light to that and just say, yeah, because it's cross border, it does fall under our jurisdiction. We have to make an agreement with another town, just to give them the green light. I think that's really the point of the motion, is to give the sewer commission.
Absolutely.
Again, we're on the same team here, and we want to figure out how to continue these discussions and be talking about these different options in ways that could potentially help all of our towns. All right, Jack, and then Diane. Jack, you're muted.
I just said that Diane had raised her hand first.
Okay. Diane.
I just have a sort of a technical question about the, about sewering South Main and what capacity that would take up and whether that's something we could do within our own plant currently. I think it. So we had
So-
discussed, yeah.
Yeah, so so several years ago, the capacity for hooking up South Main had been added to what we believe we can handle. So in the assessment that Gary Vanderwill had done, which is on the town website, what we had in there was South Main and the property at CJC. And those properties were calculated as to be in the plan for us to be able to handle that flow rate.
Within the capacity. So in terms of the discussion of a smaller treatment plant, satellite treatment plant, is that something that is under discussion for Cohasset specific sewer expansion, or is that something that would be under discussion should we, discuss, should we come to an agreement with Situate?
Yeah, so
I
let
think
me
the
give you
latter.
just a quick one. I think
ahead,
this is
Paul.
kind of a Wayne Sawchuk question. So I think the board needs to understand that we have several projects on the docket that one of them is a surprise to us, right? So the Cook Estates has been deemed to be a health hazard. So we're now adding 7,500 gallons per day to be able to hook up the Cook Estates. The other thing that folks need to understand is that, in the harbor itself, we're going to be adding 27 new units of condominiums and retail space. Now, their output per day is going to be greater than what that hotel produced, even though
Sure.
the hotel EDUs have been calculated in the past. We're going to have more daily usage coming out of that facility than what the hotel produced.
Right.
We also had properties within the village that have been approved for 14 units on One Pleasant Street, for instance, which is 14 more units, which is now additional calculation of sewage, and any other additional projects that happen in the village as well, which are on sewer, would have to be calculated in there as well. So there are things that have been approved by the planning board that haven't come to fruition to where sewage would be needed. Those are what we're considering right now prior to any additional sewage coming in.
Just
Go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, no, I was just going to wrap up with just a general statement. I mean, it's like the sky. It almost doesn't matter where the pollution's coming from or where the problems coming from. It becomes everybody's problem. I mean, we've discussed this with PFAS in the water system. Well, the PFAS in the water system could come from New Hampshire, which has different regulations, and it comes across the border and it's in the water supply. So, I mean, I definitely am in favor of trying to find regional solutions, with the baseline being what are our current needs? What would it cost us to, go this alone? Do we have the capacity? And then, if we can solve a regional problem with a regional partnership, I think that's something we need to move toward, at least getting the discussions. I mean, it's been 4 years to a
Right.
point where we feel like, again, we're all looking at the same data and we're drilling down. The priorities are, we got to get South Main Street, because that's our community. Those are our people. That does impact the Gulf River, but it doesn't matter where the issues are coming from. They're there. And I think we all have a responsibility to try to address them.
Right. So I'd like you to stay away from the regional solution problem, because there isn't a regional solution problem for us. We have to address the issues for the town of Cohasset. We just have been issued a new permit from the state, and there are new PFAS requirements that are upon us. So those are things that we have to now address for a town. So where that pollution comes from, we can't control, but we have to address what the issues are when they are presented to us. So this Again, this is not a regional issue. This is not a regional problem that we're solving with 3 or 4 towns together. We have to
Sewer
address
isn't,
what
but
the issues
it-
are for Cohasset.
But I'm saying not sewer. I'm not trying to comment on the sewer
Right.
solution. I'm trying to say that the pollution's an issue that we all, as human beings living next to each other in fake borders, have a
Sure.
responsibility to address. So if there's a way that we can help all of our neighbors in whatever way we can, with our priorities being clearly delineated, solve problems that impact our harbor, no matter where it's coming from, north, south, east, or west, I think we have a responsibility to have those conversations.
Sure, don't disagree with that.
And Diane, you've summed up exactly what I'm thinking, Diane. We have environmental issues here, and we have capacity issues that we see that train coming down the track. So the current status quo of our sewer is not sustainable. We're going to have to do something, and we're going to have to spend a lot of money on it. Whether that solution's regional or not, I think it's important considering these regional options and seeing what all of these options are. Because again, if there's a way to solve our problems and also help solve some regional problems, I think that would only help all of us even more.
You continue to say that there's a regional problem when there isn't. So
I think what I'm saying is I think there could be a regional solution to all of our individual town problems, Paul.
So Situate
Each
wants
of
to
the
pump,
town have
but
problems.
Situate wants to pump sewer to help to Cohasset.
No, I know.
That's not a problem. That's a desire.
It's to address their own town problems that they're facing. Each one of us as towns are dealing with sewer issues in future.
So they don't have a sewer problem in Situate, just so you understand that. They have a desire to expand sewer, right? They have options to do that. They don't want to pay $14 million to upgrade their facility. That's not our problem. They would rather pay $4 million to put into Cohasset.
Could I make a suggestion, please?
Yep, and then Gene and Jack are going to talk.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt the select board, but I think what's needed here is to have a meeting between, our sewer board, a representative from the select board of here and Situate, and see what in God's name we can actually do, and what are the options for us and how we could do something.
No, I agree with you, Bill.
And I think that's what's been lacking, because we haven't really had that in a couple of years now, for obvious reasons. I mean, there's just been a lot of stuff going on. And I think that's what we need. And we can see what's going on, because there's several solutions that we have. And Wayne surfaced one today during our board meeting. And I think we just need to get all these things out on the table and say, okay, well, what works best for both places?
No, you're right, Bill. And again, the purpose of why we're doing this right now is to hopefully jumpstart those again, because we haven't been continuing those discussions. And I think all of us see the need to be doing that. Okay, Jack, you've been waiting patiently.
Yes, thank you. Pretty clear that we do not have a capacity issue in Cohasset. We have well within our capacity of our existing sewer plant to handle all of the current and projected Cohasset use. The fact that the sewer board has been prudent and finding if something were to change down the line, do we have another, very inexpensive local solution, and to be aware of that doesn't mean that we need to do it. So I think it's very clear that Cohasset does not have a problem. The problem comes from sewerage that's generated from other towns, which is Situate. And Situate, evidently, I'm not sure, but they prefer to enlist Cohasset to solve their problems, and they haven't solved their problems. Cohasset did not have that luxury when we had to deal with Little Harbor. I don't understand, and I've followed this, by the way, and I think the sewer board will notice I have quietly been talking to them for a number of years, because I'm aware that this is a problem. But it's not the problem generated from Cohasset, and that's the central fact that we all have to do, because we are elected and represent Cohasset citizens and voters. This is our responsibility. And we need to take that seriously. If in fact Situate wants to talk about stuff, I don't have a problem talking about it, but I don't think that we would necessarily do it on the basis of this proposed motion, because it really is, you know, very much weighted in favor of saying, well, we need to do this. This is a wonderful thing. It's da, 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 da. Select board, if they so choose, could say, yeah, you know, we can listen, but I don't think we want to give up our sovereignty. And I don't think we want to get into a situation, a Rube Goldberg situation, where we're interconnected with now two other towns, all right, and we don't get anything for it. So, and we have a lot of other issues that we need to look at. You know, it's going to come before the board about the operating agreement for handling Bassing's Beach, the enforcement. We have the oyster beds. We have protection of our youth sailing areas, which are in Situate jurisdiction. We have the cooperation agreement. We have a gridlock driven by Situate development, which this sewerage expansion will cause on 3A, which will inevitably come down shortcuts through Cohasset. We have a lot of things that might come up, but unilaterally, you know, giving away what Situate really needs doesn't seem to me prudent. The first thing, if you get into negotiations, you don't start by saying, we're going to give you everything you want. So that's kind of off the thing, but we still remain with one salient set of facts. Cohasset does not need this. It does not benefit Cohasset. We have ample capacity, and we have ample capacity for expansion.
I'm not sure the ample capacity part is true based on future projections. I mean, at some point, we're going to need either a new sewer plant or to have a satellite plant or to add another one based on.
I don't know how you say that. I haven't seen those projections. I've looked at what's existing now, and I've talked to them, and theoretically everything is possible. We could put a 30-story high rate, a new sewer plant. But the sewer board has been very prudent and very conservative in planning for expected sewer expansion. And from what they've been told me for the past couple of years, we're all set.
All right,
done a good job, and I support them.
You've been waiting patiently to talk, so I'm giving the floor to you.
It looks like Wayne had a follow-up.
Unmute.
Oh,
We are maintaining our flows because we still send flow to Hull, and we have go up to 50,000 gallons. We try to send as little as we have to, which is Hull Street, which we can't not give to them unless we divert that and spend about $1 million to bring them onto our system. So we don't do that, but we have flexibility. And of course, you don't know exactly what someone's flow is until it's done. So if we are giving 25,000 gallons to Mr. Stasko's property because of the problems and stuff that were up there, that may only be 18,000, 16,000. You can't really tell the flows because we're going flows by DEP, and that's it. But the point that I wanted to say, and just to tell you how this whole thing is going, is that 2 meetings ago, we got a call, and we had on our agenda a vice president from Toll Brothers. And we said, gee, this is weird. What are they coming to talk to us about? And they got online here, and they said, we were told to call you and put in an application for sewering our proposed 295 unit apartment building right after North Situate, right after Booth Hill Road there, right on the right-hand side. And we said, what? He said, yeah, no, the town told us to go directly to you. And I'm saying to myself, is this the type of thing that's going to happen if we have a deal with someone? And why would Cohasset necessarily in any way want to take on that 295 unit development when we're not allowing certain things in our own town because they're going to use too much? So that's the point that it is the things you have to watch for that are behind the scenes that you don't know about. The fact that Situate has a pipeline in there from North Situate to the treatment plant that they've never used. And yet North Situate is dry. There's no sewer capacity there. How does it?
During, when they put in the, when they put in the new train line, part of the deal was they put in a sewer line for North Situate to the Situate station, and Situate decided not to hook it up.
Goes right to the plant.
And that's something that Toll Brothers could have hooked into. And now we have Toll Brothers from Situate on our agenda, asking us to hook them directly up.
Yeah, but this is for a new
It's insane.
project.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was for a new project, and they said, you got to help us out. I said, help us out? Yeah, you have to take our sewer. That's, I'm done.
Okay, thank you for that story, Wayne. All right, Jean.
All right, I've unmuted myself. So this is helpful for me learning and understanding more. I do have a lot of remaining questions, but I'm going to try to hit just a few high points really quickly. It strikes me what we're really talking about is risk management, because even though I think the Sewer Commission is doing a good job trying to manage all the various risks, some of it is just a little bit out of your control, like Cook Estates, for example, right? I would imagine that that was probably an unexpected hard event that now we have to manage. And so it strikes me that in the framework of risk management that we're talking about to help inform these decisions, we're talking about we have to do South Main Street. We've got projects already out there, as well as developments like Cook Estate that we have to address and get a realistic understanding of capacity. I do think having a better sense of exactly what we're looking at, including when we talk about some of these future projections, like the CHP development at the harbor, I think is important. I also think it's important to understand that in addition to what's before the planning board now, there's other huge stuff out there like Cohasset Wharf that really could add on a lot in terms of capacity. And so a part of me is wondering to what extent part of the discussion also has to be with the planning board to help alert them and educate them on some of these issues as, we think about how to address the development that will come before them. And I'm sure they're thinking about it, but it is striking when we think about the anticipated capacity versus the actual capacity and just how to square that gap. It strikes me too, and we haven't talked about it, but in the framework of risk management, resilience, in addition to polluting the harbor, wherever the pollution comes from, our sewer treatment plant is also pretty close to the harbor, and we're just starting a resilience study next week, I believe, is the first forum. And so, I do think that's a consideration. It's always frankly made me nervous, perhaps unrealistically so, that we're going to have a huge tide that's really going to impact that area down there as we look at how high the water is near the harbor, and to the extent that we can have other options to help mitigate against that. I think another risk we have is Hull. We are dealing with some of our capacity right now through an agreement that expires in 2026. If Hull turns around and says, well, Cohasset, that's your problem now. We don't want to renew with you. We're going to go it alone, just like you want to go it alone. That, that is a risk that we have to consider. And I'm not suggesting they do that. And I'm hoping we can continue to work with them. But if we take it what's your problem is your problem, not my problem, then, I do worry about the downstream consequences of that. And then, Wayne, I think you bring up a good point about really understanding too, if we do X, Y, Z, what are the downstream consequences of that? Because it's just a reality and we should think through it. But at the end of the day, when I think about all that risk management, scenarios playing out, I think that where I'm sort of falling is we should consider all of the alternatives and do a cost benefit analysis and really try to do it in as best a data-driven way we can, trying to take out the emotions, including what's the cost of an alternate sewer satellite plant. I would be interested in knowing more details about that, and then compare that against what's the cost of going it alone, of sewering South Main Street and potentially other projects that we might have to sewer on our own. if we go it alone, so to speak. That is a cost that will likely go beyond the residents and go beyond the sewer commission, like Little Harbor, where the town was asked to step in and pay for paving that went in addition to the cost that was anticipated by all of us. And so that's something that is a capital expense that we should probably be thinking about regardless with some of these projects. And then what's the cost of a regional program, for better or for worse? And how does that square up against everything? And just the pros and the cons. Because I think that we're sort of talking through all this, which is great, but I guess I'm open to all these options and hearing more, including pursuing all the different options and getting more concrete data and specifics and trying to get ahead of these various risks that seem to be out there, but still are a little murky.
Jean, that's beautifully said. I think you really summed it up just beautifully. And you're right. I think that all of these options should be on the table and thought about, especially in terms of cost and then impact to the town. Right now, again, we're okay, but I see this looming issue of all the things that are going to happen in the future, like you just said, Jean. And I think that there could be a time, not in the distant future, that we're not okay and we are at capacity and there are other environmental resiliency issues and pollution issues. And I guess I really want us to be more proactive about this in terms of having these discussions rather than just kind of accepting the status quo and saying everything's great. Sewer Commission, you've done a lot of work on all this. And again, but I do think it is important to be having these bigger discussions. And that is the purpose of why we're even meeting tonight, to try to jumpstart the more forward thinking aspects of this.
I'd like to say that I agree with Jean, because 90% of what she said pertain to the residents of Cohasset.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that the Sewer Commission has to do before it decides to do anything with Situate is we need to fund a wastewater management plan, which we don't have. The last one we did was 1996. And we also have to fund a resiliency plan, which we don't have as well. Those two things cost money. So those have to be funded and they have to be implemented. Those two things will determine what the needs are of the town of Cohasset. And that would include, sewering South Main. So once we have those two pieces in place, then we can make an informed decision if we want to add any outside sewerage to the system. But until we have a wastewater management plan and a resiliency plan, I don't think we can move forward with doing anything with any town in addition to what we're doing now. You have to understand that, the sewer plan that we had already budgeted in South Main Street and Border Street for capacity. What's in front of us now is, and what the planning board has approved, is currently about 21 to 25,000 more gallons per day that were not in that plan.
Bill, I see your hand. Sorry.
that were not in that plan.
I'm in the dark, sorry.
Oh, are you waving at us or okay?
Oh, no, I'm waving at you.
So those things have to be put in place. So, wastewater management plan costs a considerable amount of money. We have to make that decision to do that. And a resiliency plan has to be put in place. So if we don't have those two things, we can't be adding other people into our system.
Bill?
Yeah, so Paul, I agree with you, but I think that we should, my opinion, we should take a parallel course. I think that we have been, avoiding the issue that we need to have dialogue with Situate, period. And we have to have either certainly the sewer board should be will be part of this, but somebody from the select board should be with us along with the town manager, as we had, I think it was like last March or April. And we can sit down and say, well, okay, what are all the permutations of what we could do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that in parallel with us putting our own plan together as to what we can do. And once we do that, we're in a better position to come before you and say, okay, this is what we want to do.
Right.
Because we don't know. And I think we need to see what Situate wants to do and there's lots of sort of pie in the sky stuff and whatever. Who knows? I mean, but I think we have to have a meeting with Situate, period. I think we have to have this study, period. And I think that we have to be able to put both of those together, come before the select board and say, okay, this is what we can do. This is what Situate wants to do. And this is what we think we should do.
Well said, Bill. No, I think you and Jean actually said the same thing. We need financial info on all these options. We need to know what all the options even are. We need to know the feasibility of all of these options. And to do that, we have to include Situate in on it and have these discussions and at least just see
Absolutely. Yeah.
what the avenues are that we can go down.
Yep.
Jack, I think you were next, and then Diane.
Yeah, and I think Bill and Jean were coming right down to, we need to clearly understand what we need and can do. And we need to clearly, with some accurate data. I mean, the data that I've been following for a while clearly says that Cohasset does not need that. And certainly, you don't make pollution go away by shipping it from one point to another. If we could facilitate that at no cost, but we don't want to lose our ability to be independent. And I think that we need to just kind of understand getting the facts and understanding what Situate can and cannot do. And because we, in fact, are representing Cohasset. And yes, Bill, I know, has always had a concern about the Gulf River. And he's had it for a long time. It just didn't just suddenly emerge a year ago. He and I talked about this 3 or 4 years ago. And it really, that part of the pollution is a Situate issue. They're the ones that have to do it. They think that Cohasset's a low-cost alternative. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I do think that we need to be speaking with them. And I think that having the select board, there in a neutral manner, in neither a pro nor con manner, not a Cohasset select board has already said that they want to support this. We need somebody to do that from the select board, and we need the sewer commission because they are our homegrown experts. And I think it makes a sense to have a very neutral discussion with Situate and find out fact-based, information and fact-based discussions, and we don't need advocacy. We need factacy, if you will.
Okay, Diane, is your hand back down again?
I'll defer, but I agree with Jean and Bill. And I also wanted to say that a lot of the options and the costs were done in the original whatever study it was, original being like 3 or 4 years ago. So it
only more.
Sorry, it certainly has changed, but there is some baseline.
We have a
that we can
baseline,
use. Yeah.
right? No, I know, that's a good point. Corey.
Sorry, yeah, there's a PDF, a whole report that was, I think, last February on all this. So I just wanted to make a suggestion to everybody, see if this was kind of acceptable. I think there's a lot of head nodding about the idea of exploring the option, but really in a very limited sense, just to kind of understand where we are. I had sent a draft motion to the sewer board just to get some feedback, and thank you to everyone who wrote me back. And I'm thinking that right now, maybe we just put that to the side because maybe that was a little bit of a higher lift than we're really at the point yet. But I was going to suggest that maybe off the cuff, just make a motion that the select board would endorse an additional meeting between the sewer commission, Situate, executive boards, town manager, including a select board Cohasset liaison, including the Cohasset town manager, just for one additional meeting to explore, where we are and what the next steps are. In addition, have the sewer commission, work on getting some answers to some of the questions that we exposed today, just kind of more limited, if that makes a lot of sense to people. I know it was a lot, my apologies.
No, I don't necessarily think it will only be one meeting. to talk about these options, but I think that's a good start, Corey.
Yeah, I think that what we really need to do is we don't have to get anything fancy. We could just authorize, joint discussions between the Cohasset Select Board, Sewer Commission, and respective town managers. I don't think we have to put a straitjacket around the discussions. I think we could just say, yeah, we authorize those kinds of discussions and see what happens.
I'll second that if that's your motion, Jack.
That's my motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this, Diane?
I just wanted to say somewhat tongue in cheek, deja vu all over again. But I do think that the window has to be short, that we have to sit down with Situate, figure out what some immediate actions are, what they might cost, and make sure, the sewer commission knows what our needs are better than anybody. Make sure they match that and then come back to us sooner rather than later, because
What, you muted yourself?
we had this very same conversation.
Yeah,
I think it was
know.
last year, 18 months ago, and it just can't go on. We at some time have to or get off the pot. So
No, I agree. It does.
What was that again, Diane?
it's the sewer discussion.
Feels like we're spinning our wheels and not being productive.
I call the vote. Call the vote.
All right. All right. We have a motion and a second.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Healy Dibble-Dodd.
Diane, I assume you said aye, even though you're
Aye.
muted. Carrie Thompson, aye. I hope that this will really jumpstart this process again, because it's been pretty dormant and not productive for a couple of years. All right, Sewer Commission, thank you for joining us and thank you for your thoughts. If you want to end your meeting.
We all agree with what you just did.
And we agree to end the meeting.
Okay.
It's past my bedtime, so.
Thank you for staying up past your bedtime. All right.
Meeting
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much.
Hold
Thank you.
on, Jack. Hold on.
Motion
Not
to
you
adjourn.
yet.
Yeah, we have a motion to adjourn the sewer commission. Paul Kear, second.
Wayne Sawchuk.
Bill McGowan.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys. Thank
Good
you very
night,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Select board is not allowed to adjourn yet. Almost. All right.
Madam,
Whew.
Madam Chair, could I just
Yes.
ask for
Go ahead.
something? I mean, part of this was clarity on appointing the liaison. And I know we appointed me to this a couple months ago. It may be useful to either reaffirm that or reconsider that, based on how this is going. I'm obviously, it's a heavy load and there's a lot going on. So if there's another member that would like to serve in this role, I'm more than willing to step back. But also, since we just made the authorization to have the discussions, I think reauthorizing the select board member to be in that room would be useful as well.
Corey, I'd
May
like
I
to
make a
reauthorize
suggestion?
you.
May I
Yes.
make a suggestion?
Sure, Jack.
Maybe Corey and I should do it jointly. I think we can certainly do that.
I mean, I
Two of
think
us
we
there
need to
is
have
great.
jointly is fine too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, Corey, as far as I'm concerned, you're still the official liaison too, though.
I am, but I think that we've got new board members now.
Right.
And, I also, again, I find myself in the position of trying to explain, research and stuff that predates me. And I don't want to be seen as the only person who, is seeing this with a certain lens, and maybe a different perspective or a different voice on this would be helpful. It's certainly not about me. It's just about getting the right solution. So
No,
I
and
don't want to be, I don't want to be I don't want to cause concern. I want to improve the outcome. And if that involves someone else taking the reins, I'm happy to
I mean, Corey, I think you're doing a great job, and I think your knowledge on this is fantastic.
Mhm.
So I think you're really good at this. I don't know if there's other people that would.
No,
really
I think
do this job, but-
for the purposes of this, having the two of us, because, unfortunately, I have been following it a lot, and there's a lot of stuff. But Corey has done a lot of recent work, and I don't think I think sometimes when you combine two knowledge bases, we do better.
Diane and Jean both have hands up.
I'll defer to Jean.
I was just gonna say, Jack and Corey, if you want to do it, I think that'd be great. It'll be like SNL point, counterpoint. And, I think we just have to make sure with Situate that where you know, and I know that you're going to do this, but, you know, acting in a very collegial manner, trying to figure out all the various options that are out there, including, you know, for example, you know, bringing up our concerns about, you know, everything that we've talked about. Like, for example, if they want to connect through our sewer, but we have resiliency concerns, I think it helps to sort of play out some of that as well, because we don't want to be creating new problems as well. And so I think also too, sort of akin to my remarks about how we address this with Cohasset ourselves, really sort of try to press Situate for all the options that may be on the table. And I know that's already been done, but I don't know if there's additional flex now with, for example, federal and state grant opportunities where, for example, ARPA money can be used for sewer in a way that is, you know, pretty clear in the statute. And so there's, again, you know, maybe some potential opportunities out there, including through Situate's application process that weren't necessarily there previously when this was studied. So it's my long way of saying go for it.
Okay. Diane?
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think one of the issues or challenges with liaisons is that, you know, these are decisions that ultimately have to get made by the full board. So, and as I said earlier, I see this as a very short window. I know that Situate has been frustrated. This conversation has been going on for 4+ years.
Yep.
And I think, you know, I don't care. I don't want to say I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter who's at the table as long as there's not a quorum unless we post.
Right.
But whatever happens at the next discussion, which I hope is going to be soon, is immediately reported back to the rest of us, because ultimately all of us have to make this decision as to whether or not to expand sewer and go in this direction. I also just want to say that one thing we haven't talked about, we should consider is, you know, the larger, the more ratepayers we have on the system, the cheaper it becomes for the people that are that do get sewer. So there's a lot of economies just in terms of when we realize whatever this future sewer system might look like, that we have to think about for the current ratepayers. So
good point. Good point. All right. So are we in agreement on this? I don't know if it needs to be an official vote. I think we're all in agreement. Corey and Jack, go do it. Keep us updated. Okay. Town manager update.
Okay, quick.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Jack.
I'll defer. I'll defer to that motion.
Actually,
I was looking at Chris and he's starting to droop a little.
I'll defer. I'll defer to that motion.
All right. Is everyone okay with not doing select board comments and town manager update? That's fine.
No, not me.
Well, so we have.
Jack has to pull his motion.
Go for it, Diane.
60 seconds.
Go, Chris, you go first.
Like, how about we each do 60 seconds or less?
All right, here we go.
Chris, 60 seconds.
Just a reminder about the clinics. The youth clinic is on the 22nd. It's this coming Saturday. And the adult vaccine booster clinic is next Wednesday in the evening. Sites up on the town website. And just very quickly, Government Finance Offices has recognized the town twice for the comprehensive financial statements. That's our 9th straight award. And for the 3rd time, the budget book has been given an award for its comprehensive presentation of budget issues. Many thanks to everybody, this board, the advisory board, Don, Paula, and everyone else who makes that possible.
Thank you, Chris. Good 60-second update. Diane, get us started.
I just wanted to ask for a moment of silence in honor of Joni Brown. Merle Brown served as a selectman. Joan was by his side all the time, but more importantly, she did so much in this community. She was on the Elder Affairs Board and she passed away a couple weeks ago. Really, I can't think of a person that deserves recognition and just honor than Joan. So if we could just have 15 seconds.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, Corey.
Just want to mention again, thank you to the Board of Health, with Board of Public Health for all that stuff. And, you know, we're hopefully behind this whole thing. We obviously brought up earlier test kits. Let's keep ourselves safe summer will be here. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. On that note, the only update I wanted to give is if you go to special.usps.com/test kits, you can get your free test kits on the new federal program. I did it earlier today. It works really well. Everyone just go order them. It's a great program. All right, Jean.
Thanks again to the Board of Health for the kids vaccine clinic. Really appreciate that. I think it's going to come in handy in the future too. Again, reminder, field study forum, January 26th. And I'm going to put in also a plug for the Cohasset Harbor Climate Resilience Initiative First Public Forum, Tuesday, January 25th at 7 p.m. Details on the website. We talk a lot about resilience. Glad to see it starting to happen.
Great. Thank you. Jack.
No, that was 60 seconds or less.
Or just adjourn us if you want.
No, less. I said less.
Okay, so is that
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ravens, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. That was a long one, but productive.
I'm going back to my cold pizza.